This is Neutral Ice.
It's over the Buffalo line. Johansson pass. Atkinson. Can't get the shot away. Still with it from the corner. Atkinson sends it up top. Shot by Prout. Atkinson scores!
Jack Johnson calmly sends it ahead to Matt Calvert. Calvert now from center. Just misses the net. Final 10 seconds. And there into the empty net. Boone Jenner.
Up for grabs. The Penguins trying to get it out. Mazzaros with it. 1 second. And it's all over.
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
Now, here's the question that we go from that. So, does anybody think that Nolan's actually going to be back next year?
No.
Nope. Okay.
I think we're all in agreement with
I mean,
that.
Nolan got a 3-year contract, but I think that was more of a facade to basically say, well, you'll get a little bit of money when we fire you. So, here you go.
I'm here to announce that Ted Nolan has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Buffalo Sabres.
So thank God that's over. I mean, it's over, right? There's not more, right? I mean...
Now, here are your hosts, Nick Lippa and Jack Sullivan.
A lot of Sabres fans are embracing the tank.
Say
tank.
Again. Say
tank.
Again. I dare you. I double dare you. Say
tank.
One more time.
On Buffalo's original alternative, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. It's a celebration here in the Neutral Ice booths. Here with me, Brighton Wilson, Derek Kramer, Frank Curry, Chris Kowalchuk, and Joe DiBiase, as we are the best Buffalo hockey talk show in Western New York, folks. That's what we do.
I would even say the best Buffalo hockey talk show in the world.
In the world. Oh, man. Loving it here. Sabres are last, folks. That's right. Mick Eichel is for the Sabres alone. They are the only team guaranteed to have one of these two generational players. You, whether you were tanking or anti-tanking, yes, I'll say it one more time, tanking, does not matter anymore. We can all link hands together, folks, and enjoy.
Except me.
Like, you have a chance to get Connor McDavid.
But that's because you're just a Devils fan.
So, that being said, link hands together, Sabres fans, because whether you were on board with it or not, you're getting it. All of that hard work of you committing to just being severely depressed.
Or angry.
Or angry all the time, watching the Sabres over the past month, it's over, folks. All you got to do is, and I will say this now, prepare for Eichel. Prepare for 80% chance you end with Jack Eichel here, unless Tim Murray goes crazy, which he kind of is. He's insane. Leading up to this, Tim Murray, literally less than 24 hours after the Sabres' last game, fires Ted Nolan.
No, God, please, no, no, no.
That happened.
You left out the best part.
That being said, Ted Nolan gone. Brighton played it in the beginning opening clip. We talked about this. That was a recording from a couple of months ago, I believe. And
if I'm correct, the date was it was early March. I think it was like the 3rd of March.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So over a month ago. And amazingly, no one was surprised. No one was surprised. Was anybody actually surprised here?
Nope.
I was. The only thing I'm surprised about is how swift and quick it was.
I wasn't surprised about that. I thought he would have gotten fired 5 minutes after the game.
I don't really know how swift it was either. There was a lot of backlash from it,
which only from the national media.
And that's what we have to talk about today at the beginning right now. Does Tim Murray deserve backlash for this firing?
Does he deserve like the question? I'm going to ask it in a different way. Does he deserve backlash for running the team the way he sees fit? No.
No. What do you got? Chris? You're not a Sabres fan. You are more impartial to this. What do you view as Ted Nolan? This whole situation.
I think he knew what he was getting into. He signed a 3-year deal for a reason. He's gonna get paid regardless of whether he coaches or not. He gets fired. He gets his check. He may never coach in the NHL again.
According to Matthew Barnaby on Twitter a couple of hours ago, he said a couple of other teams are interested in Ted Nolan as a coach. One of the rumors that came up was Pittsburgh. I think that would be hilarious.
Sidney Crosby, he can't compete enough. He's a bust.
Sidney Crosby taken off the power play unit after his heart and grit was lower than
Evgeny Malkin. He's just a stupid Russian.
Than Marcel Gock, who rejoined the Penguins at that time. That being said,
John Scott joins the Pittsburgh Penguins next year.
Let's stop it right now, guys.
I think we're done.
So the Ted Nolan fired. A lot of people really angry about it. You talk about the USA Today. Their headline is along the lines of Ted Nolan fired, expected, unfair. You have a lot of people on social media freaking out, going, this isn't fair. You have Don Cherry coming out saying, if Tim Murray fires Ted Nolan, that the hockey gods are going to come after the Buffalo Sabres.
I find that hard to believe.
I do find that hard to believe because
Nice.
when have the hockey gods ever helped the Buffalo Sabres? 1999, were the hockey gods there when the skate was in the crease? That's a yes or no question.
I hate to break this to you. Hockey gods don't exist.
Chris, you
with the grace of 3 cups is willing to say that?
All right.
Hockey gods.
Guys, basically what I'm trying to say is, if there are hockey gods, which no, they don't exist, Chris, absolutely you're right. No, I'm sorry. If we took a poll of people who believed if there were hockey gods or not, I'm sure there would not be a high percentage of people going, yes, I believe in hockey gods. It's not high enough on the priority list that it's on the U.S. Census. Do you believe in hockey gods? You don't get to that conclusion that way. So no, I'm asking the question from it's a hypothetical question, okay? If there were hockey gods, okay, Chris? All right.
Okay, Lipa.
No, the Dallas Stars. No hockey gods there. How about in the conference finals against the Hurricanes? Any hockey gods there? No. How about when the Sabres continually finish 10th or 9th place in the Eastern Conference? Any hockey gods there?
Well, for that you don't need guys.
How about
you need a better team.
How about when the Sabres had 9 penalties as the Flyers won, and it's the second game of the playoff series when they were the 7th seed? Was there any hockey gods there?
Only on Tuesday.
Only on Tuesdays. All right. So, no. Don Cherry is a senile old man. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I don't like being mean towards people, but
that's okay.
But I never want to discredit anybody. Everybody has an opinion and a voice, and that's fine. But Don Cherry's the same man who was bad talking Jack Eichel. Not
that's only because he's American.
But everybody realizes that, right? Did everybody hear Don Cherry here on the show not talking good about Jack Eichel?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, well, it did happen, and he was basically diminishing his value as a player in comparison to McDavid.
Does it surprise you, though?
No, it doesn't at all.
No.
But realistically speaking, and Wayne Gretzky talked about this as well as a lot of the other NHL, they're talking about how much closer. Why was Wayne Gretzky so good for his time? Well, he was so far ahead of everybody else as far as talent. However, there's 9 or 10 guys that are at the top of their game that are at the top of the league. There's not just a Crosby that's above everybody. There's Crosby, Malkin, Stamkos, Voracek now, who can be in there, Ovechkin, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn. These are all guys who are really... Yeah, Darren Poopa. You have all of these guys that are really, really great.
Johan Heck.
Yeah, there you go.
Harry Snips.
Thank you very much.
Jamie Benn, by the way, won the Art Ross.
And we'll get to that later in the show.
In an awesome fashion.
Congratulations to Jamie Benn after John Tavares upped him with a couple of points earlier. So that being said, though, yeah, Eichel and McDavid, they're not as far apart as people think. And I think we talked about this last week.
The gap between 1 and 2 is not nearly as bad as 2 and 3.
No, it's not like, again, who was taking 2 when Lemieux was playing?
Mm-hmm. This is not that gap.
Kirk Muller.
It's not that kind of gap, folks. It is realistically, you're talking about that Jonathan Toews type player, except he's probably going to score you more points than Toews when he hits his prime. And I think that's a realistic expectation to hit for the way Eichel's played in the NCAA in this generation. And McDavid, again, what did he score? 5 goals the other night?
5.
Yes. He's got, I believe, 12 points through the first 3 games of the series.
That is insane. So
3 assists last night. I believe he had 5. He had just the 5 goals on Friday, and then Thursday he had what?
The 5 goals, I think, was Thursday. Oh, no, that was
Friday.
No, it was Friday because Eichel won the Hobie Baker.
Yeah, that was Friday.
McDavid scored 5 goals.
Sabres
lost games.
So very, very, very big right now is all this talk.
Big day.
So I just, when you talk about discrediting people, and we talked about this, Murray getting all this backlash and all this kind of stuff, and whether you want to do it or not, realize, Buffalo fans, you are getting one hell of a player in Eichel or McDavid, and it's yours. So this one, I'm clapping because that one's for you. The Buffalo community has had to endure.
We did it.
The fans.
We got a cookie.
So my next question to everybody is, when we're talking about Murray, and he's getting a lot of backlash right now, none of us really think he deserves it. Everybody here, I'm going to ask a couple questions. I want general consensus here. Ted Nolan, is he a better than average coach in today's NHL? Your
No.
opinion?
Not even close.
No.
Okay.
There's cases where he doesn't even know players on the other team. Like, he's just not that. He's not very informative. He's not up to what today's game is looking for, which you need like analytical coaches and guys that are very in depth with the X's and O's. And basically, Ted Nolan's just a motivator at this point.
And does Ted Nolan believe in analytics, Joe? No.
I would guess no.
No. You can. There's an article by Die by the Blade, I believe, is the website that writes some Sabre articles, and they reported on that earlier in the year, utilizing some of the press conference releases and talked about that. Ted Nolan doesn't believe in analytics.
It's like not even something you really shouldn't be able to believe in. Like, it's just like a tool to help you judge players. Like, that's why it's just like he's stubborn to change, basically, in my opinion. Then, so that's not really the type of coach I want.
Derek, you want to add into that?
You're telling me that a man who doesn't want to change, like the man who, only relies on big-time goaltending to really have had a lot of credibility in this league, or even internationally. Look at what happened with Latvia versus Canada. They only made it to that game because the goalie stood on his head. I mean, Ted Nolan, I'm not going to say that, he doesn't get his fair cut of the jib here, but let's look at it. Hasek, I mean, the goalies played well for him here. Goalies played well for him in Latvia. The only thing that Ted Nolan has going for him is the fact that Arturs Urbe is also Latvian.
The one thing I want to add to that, though, is that when you see a guy do that over the course of years, he's done that for his entire career. You have to give credit where credit's due. And there's one thing you can say with Ted Nolan teams. There's going to be a lot of block shots. There's going to be a lot of players sacrificing their bodies to help out their defense.
And there's not a lot of scoring, though.
Yeah, but that being said, it does make it harder to help goaltending out. You're talking about, especially the Sabres this year, it wasn't every team had high percentage shots every game. They were getting a lot of shots, but the Sabres were making it hard in certain games against certain players.
But they wouldn't.
You can accredit that
Yes.
to Nolan and his coaching and,
Yes.
and something that he did as a positive. I'm not trying to throw Nolan under the bus.
No.
He's one. Was Nolan given a roster to win?
No.
No? Does anybody think he was?
I think he was given a better roster this year than compared to last year to win.
But was he given a roster to win?
Oh, God, no. No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
So he wasn't given a roster to win. However, is his style going to carry over with another team next year? And does anybody really think that the Sabres moving on next year are going to get better with Ted Nolan to be able to compete in the playoffs?
I wouldn't say play. Like, if he was still on this roster, there were players that were showing improvement. Tyler Ennis was fantastic under Ted Nolan, whereas he was so-so on most nights.
Yeah, but Tyler Ennis has been fantastic under a lot of coaches. Like,
yes.
I don't attribute his success to Ted Nolan, who I would attribute one player's development to Ted Nolan. That would be Grigorenko, because his
Johan
problem.
Larsson.
Yeah, well, Larson to an extent. I think Larson did most of his development in Rochester.
Gergensons is somebody you have to take into consideration as well.
Grigorenko especially for me, though, because his main issue was he wasn't working hard on and off the ice, and he was kind of afraid to go in front of that and in the corners. And I think I've seen improvement in that area under Nolan.
Something that Nolan preaches.
Yeah. So, I mean, he can do that. Like, he's good at getting a player to go to those areas and work. There's a limit to what he can do, though.
The big thing I want to say is that Ted Nolan accepted a job he knew he was set up to fail in. And he understood
I'm
this.
not necessarily going to say that 100% because he was hired by Pat LaFontaine.
Yeah, when he re-signed for a 3-year contract extension,
then he knows what he's getting into.
He knew what he was getting into.
Okay.
He could have easily said no.
That I agree with.
Okay. That being said, he took every press conference. How many times did we walk away from a press conference going, "Man, Ted Nolan is at they're just him and Murray are at whims this year." You didn't walk away from a press conference feeling the huge controversy there. He took everything on the chin for the most part. There are some questions that could have gone terribly wrong this year.
Oh, yeah.
With Nolan, and for the most part, he handled it really, really well.
Most of the time that when I was at a press conference, because I've seen plenty of them this year, when I saw the press conferences afterwards, I walked away thinking he's got nothing left to say. I mean, there's nothing else he can really say. I mean, he just walks off, it's the same old stuff, a different day kind of ordeal. It's just not. It wasn't good for him, and I that's what led me to believe just immediately where it was like, I don't think that he's going to be back at all.
The only time he really showed his frustration was against Anaheim earlier in the year when he basically called his team like a bunch of amateurs. So I mean, I believe he was upset about what the team was at. And
Nolan had other subtle hints. There were games like against the Rangers, he'd be like, "This team's just so much better than we are." Like kind of like a subtle jab, like, "This is not a roster I can win with. What do you expect me to do?"
Yeah.
It's hard for him to also criticize.
But everybody agreed with it. And
right
now, does anybody think it's a disservice to Ted Nolan right now that he got fired so quickly?
No. You get a better chance to look for a job faster.
I mean, he was coaching Latvia. Like, he got a good payday. He got to coach in the NHL another 2 years. If Barnaby's tweet is true, then maybe it helped him get another job in the league.
If
like,
anything,
before
job,
LaFontaine hired him, he was.
If anywhere,
he was the head coach of Latvia. That's
if
what he
anywhere
was
Ted Nolan's going to go, it's going to be the Arizona Coyotes.
That's actually a rumor that's also been floating around.
Tippett would have to
It
leave
would,
first.
but the guy, well, Tippett is a free agent. He's like Mike Babcock.
Okay.
He's a free agent.
But you want to tell me the man who was in charge of firing Nolan the first time is going to hire him?
Yeah, but it's
different.
Not his call.
It's not. It's not. That's not the general. Darcy Regier is not the general manager. Don Maloney is the general manager.
And let's remember, Darcy did offer him a contract. It's not like he didn't want him back. Maybe he didn't offer him enough money.
And if you remember, he was not in Buffalo for not professional reasons the first time he left, for some personal reasons.
Hashik.
So, and
see Hashik Dominic.
So, and we won't go into those. If you want to find out, call in 716-878-5104, and Brayton will give you a long 30-second description of what happened in that situation.
I like that it's a long.
I'll be glad to help out.
Thanks. So that being said, Ted Nolan, the one thing I really want to say is thank you for your service to the Sabres. You stuck it in there hard. I'm not sure there's a lot of other coaches that could have done the job that you did. Stop it.
Get your mind out of the gutter at Larry.
Yeah. No, he did a really tough job, and there's a lot of coaches that would have just quit. A lot of coaches that would have
blasted out in the media. And Nolan took it like a champ. And he knew what was going on. And all of the educated fans out there, all of us, we know what happened, what was going to happen. He did his thing. And in all honesty, because of how well he handled it, he may get another job in the NHL. And if he does, kudos to him. Good for him.
And from all of us at Neutral Ice to you, Ted Nolan,
we wish you the best.
Wish you the best, man. But that being said, I'm gonna ask you guys all this question right now. You guys are the GM of an organization, of a young team.
Hold on, let's all put on the suits. Let's all put on the general manager's suits right now.
You have a team that's ready to compete right now. Not rebuild, because I'm not sure if Ted Nolan's going to make his job of just going to teams that rebuild to lose now. But you're a team that's ready to compete now. Are you happy with Ted Nolan as your coach?
No.
I'm not.
Anybody happy?
No.
Well, he doesn't believe in analytics, and
he's not very informed. Like, he doesn't know the X's and O's.
He hasn't really proved anything.
If you notice too, like when the Sabres are down late in games, he's not the one drawing the play up. Basically, because he's not really qualified.
It's Brian
to do it.
Trottier, because Brian Trottier.
It's, name's escaping me, but the other assistant.
Jeremy
coach.
Felton.
Yes, I think so.
Danny Flynn.
Whatever.
All right, it doesn't matter.
Moving on. Continue, Brayton.
Yeah, because analytics is such a huge part of the game. And,
very much so.
And Ted Nolan, I mean, the power play, you just saw the power play this year. The power play was so disorganized.
Atrocious.
All the time. It didn't really matter. It's like we didn't even have a significant power play unit at all. Ron Ralston could put a better power play unit out there when he was the coach of the Buffalo Sabres. That's not exactly the greatest of things to say. But Ted Nolan, when he put a power play unit out there, he's putting fourth liners out on the power play, and it's like, what are they doing out there?
See Brian Flynn.
So Brian Flynn actually probably was one of the,
because he can play in all situations.
Yeah, he could play in all situations. He was a great penalty killer. He scored quite a few shorthanded goals.
Yeah, but power play.
But I mean, certain guys, I can't name any off the top of my head right now.
I could bring up this for you. Hodson, I saw a stat that his last year when he scored 20 goals and like 40 points, whatever, he was getting like his offensive zone starts. Most of the time he was starting in the offensive zone, which is where he should be because he's a one-dimensional player and he's supposed to be offensive. This year, I mean, basically because he got in the doghouse early, completely flip-flop. Almost all of his starts were in the defensive zone. So when he would go out for a face-off, it would be in the defensive zone.
And he's a horrible defensive player.
So if you're an analytical coach, you don't let that happen. When he's going out on the ice, it's going to be in the offensive zone. So that's just one you can.
If you knew how to handle a player like a Cody Hodgson, you wouldn't have problems like this with a player like Cody Hodgson. Because Cody Hodgson, I think everybody can agree. He's still very talented. He can be a very talented player in this league.
He could be a 40-point player on a consistent basis.
This year, Ted Nolan brought out the worst of Cody Hodgson, and we all thought, what the heck's happening? It's just he put him in situations that Cody Hodgson is not meant to be in. Cody Hodgson is as Joe said, he's an offensive type forward. He's meant to be on the power play. He's meant to be taking faceoffs or being in the offensive zone. Putting him in defensive situations is a bad idea because it's only going to lead to bad things.
And he got very little power play time.
Maybe he meant to do that.
No. Or maybe Ted Nolan didn't like a couple of players specifically, and then when he didn't like them, he benched them. See Grigorenko for the first 3/4 of his time playing up in Buffalo.
My favorite one was when he got called up and he got one shift on the second line, sent to the fourth line for the rest of the game.
He did the same thing with Larson, too. When Larson was up here earlier in the season, he was playing with Matt Ellis, and he was playing with Nick Deslauriers. He was playing with guys on the bottom six. When he went back to Rochester, and he started having a really good year, and he was playing on the top line there. So when he came back up, Nolan was forced to put Larson on the top line because he had so many injuries at center, and he thrived under that. So it's almost like Larson kind of started performing well by accident almost.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Murray had 6 hours. Apparently, this is what was quoted as, and I read it. He had 6 hours of interviews with the players, and led to the conclusion of terminating Ted Nolan's position as coach. What exactly were the players saying that led Tim Murray to this? I'm almost kind of interested because, Ted Nolan. The one thing that he was brought into was to bring the players together.
Yeah.
And and with the interviews and everything like that, I wonder what the players were saying because I'm not sure if Ted Nolan was calling out certain players or like we've been saying, it's just like he didn't like certain players and maybe, it just kind of goes against the purpose of why he was brought here. But
do you think those player interviews were like the defining reason why he fired him, or do you think they were more?
They were. I think it was more of a building on top. It was already just like a snowball effect of like the things that were.
Yeah. If there was any doubt in my mind before, now it's confirmed. I think that was kind of the approach that was taken with it.
Yeah, like give the players an opportunity to fight for him, and then maybe I'll keep an open mind. But it
might have been just the case of. And this is just speculation from our part. We really don't know. But it just as well could have been nobody made a very strong case for Ted Nolan to be here as a coach. Nobody was really either way on it. All they know is that they lost a lot this year. I mean, what's a player like Brian Giunta going to say? I got 2 more years left on my contract and potentially in this league, and I want to have Ted Nolan here again next year. What do you think Brian Giunta wants?
Brian Giunta wants to win.
So
he's now in a better position to do so.
That being said, I do want to ask a question about Ted Nolan. Right now, Tim Murray. Oh, my God. T's are killing me right now. Tim Murray has made a lot of bold moves. A lot of bold moves. So now Tim Murray's held responsible for things not going right. Correct?
That is absolutely true. And the bold moves, don't expect them to stop anytime soon.
I don't expect that. I want to ask a question right now. Does anybody think it was accident this team was bad?
No.
That was a big no from Frank.
Yeah. Frank, get closer to the mic, man. Come on, get some mic time.
We knew that.
Frank, get close to the mic.
We knew that this team was going to be bad, and Murray knows what he's doing. He wants McDavid. He wants either McDavid or Eichel wants McDavid more.
What makes you say Murray knew what makes us know that Murray knew the team was bad and that he put together a bad team? Like, you could say that, but like, what actually did he do to make this team bad?
Like he purposely put together a bad team.
I will.
But I'm saying he put together a team that he's putting together a growing team that's going to lose to start. He knows that guys like Ristolainen, Zadorov, those are going to be top-notch defensemen in the NHL.
Yeah.
And he knows guys like Ennis and Gergensons and Reinhart, they're going to be top-notch forwards in the NHL. So he's getting these guys playing, and he's also bringing in the older veterans like Giunta, like George is. I mean, George is not that old. Same to Molson. But he's bringing in these guys to help mold these the younger players.
He's bringing in veterans to mold younger players
into the quality NHLers that they will be in the future.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I look at right now is that when you look at a team where Tyler Strachan Benoit. Tyson, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then you have Mazzaros. And
to be fair, we didn't think Mazzaros was going to be nearly that bad when he came.
No, he would have been trade bait if he was any better.
Yes,
though.
exactly.
Okay, but you have Philip Veroni on one of the top lines by the end of the year.
Yes.
There's no way in my mind that Tim Murray put together this team in a way by accident. He did it purposely. Now, he came out and said he thought this team was to compete. He came out and said, all these things. It's whatever. But let me ask this question right now: Is Tim Murray basically lying to the public?
He was.
Well, I mean, he kind of has to. I mean, if he comes out and says,
you can't say, "Oh, we're bad. We're bad, and we know it."
If he says that he purposely made this team to finish last, and even if he said he wanted to finish last, I mean, he would get there would be sanctions from the league. Like
not only sanctions.
Gary Bettman would stand up and do something about it.
Not
If he said, "I want to finish last place."
Not only that, but like for the players of the entire NHL, who would want to play for him at that point if he's literally going out there and saying that?
You knew the deal. I think all these players knew as well. But I mean,
just because you know it, if he said it publicly, then there'd be people on the outside looking in going, I don't want to play for this guy.
I mean, they would want to play with the team. Like, if the team became amazing in 3 years, I don't think they're going to look back on a quote like 3 years later and say, oh, I don't want to play with him because he said this a couple years ago.
My whole point of asking these questions is because it's a serious thing. I mean, do you take it as Murray lying to you as a GM, or do you take it knowing that this is what he has to do to get to point B?
Murray essentially, I think, smokescreened. He had to say the right thing.
Brayton, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. He has to say the right thing.
Yeah, he has to say the right thing.
If
it's a lip service. It's not necessarily lying more than it is just...
He's going to be... The way that Tim Murray is that he will be straightforward with you no matter what. The thing is that he can't say what he wants to say, so he's going to be very vague about it. However, he's going to be straight up honest. He's going to give the right answers, and if he doesn't and then if he doesn't know what to say, he's just going to say, I can't comment on that right now, but, we'll evaluate the situation, and that's the best way to go about this. And I don't think that there's any offense that you can take with Ted Nolan, or not Ted Nolan. God, I'm getting the names mixed up.
I know
today.
the tease. It's the tease.
Tim Murray. That Tim Murray can go wrong with the way that he's gone about this. I think that he's done everything the best he can, in the right way that he can really just go about this business, because this season has been such a tricky season, not only for him, but for everybody else in the organization, because everybody knows what the ultimate goal is. They wanted to finish last. We want to finish last because we want McDavid. We want Eichel. One of the two. We've got one of the two now. And now that that's over, I mean, you still got to say hush about it, and you're probably going to have to stay hush about it for like the next 20 years until,
until they make until they make a 30 for 30 about
yes,
it.
Until they make 30 for 30 about them. Exactly. And that's what's going to happen.
It'll be called 30 for 30th.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Well, we'll have to maybe we'll name that our documentary, guys.
There you go.
That being said, guys, though, Murray did all of this, and here's the thing: a lot of people's first impression of Murray was the NHL draft last year, right? You have the GM from the Florida Panthers come up and basically just like, and the first pick of the NHL draft is, and he just smiles with a grin on his face, and he's like, and everybody's like, oh, I get it. He's waiting because I don't know. I don't know. And he thanks the NHL. He thanks the Fly, yada, 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 whatever. Okay, Ron Hextall, everybody, party balloons, or whatever. Happy birthday. And then all of a sudden you have Tim Murray, the opposite. Tim Murray literally looks to his sides. He goes, this is our guy? And they go, and he goes up and he walks up right to the mic, and there's no thank yous, there's no nothing. He's like, I'm here, this is my job, bye. Sam Reinhart. There you go.
I'd say my first impression with Tim Murray was the season-ending press conference where he says the words PP slap. I mean, you don't normally do that in the media, and that was probably that was the impression that was like, okay, this guy's gonna be a rock star.
Yeah. So,
and Brayton and I made we posterized that.
It was the main point with all of this heading forward is that Murray is a very straightforward guy, but he's also a guy who's very bold, and he had to do what he had to do to get to this point. Sabres, and the last thing before we go to a break, when's the last time the Sabres had a generational player not named Dominic Hasek?
Gilbert Perreault.
1970. And Jobert Perreault was the first Buffalo Sabre ever?
Yes, drafted
And
first
a
overall in
first overall
1970.
Sabres won the lottery that year. Which
Oh, wait,
was,
we're forgetting
it was
Pierre
a wheel.
Turgeon. Turgeon was the generational type player. We drafted him first overall in 87.
Seems like a pattern here.
Yeah, but I don't know if he was generational as much as he was.
That was
just
a
like,
joke.
I know. I
great.
was just.
That was a
Okay,
joke.
Okay, gotcha.
That
I
being
missed
said, I want people to just let that settle in. Pierre Turgeon, your second best chance at a generational player? No. These are two Michael Jordan-esque players in Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel. And the Sabres have not had a player of this caliber since 1970 to be able to draft. Tim Murray looked at this and said, there's no way we're going to miss out on one of these players. And guess what, Buffalo? We're getting one of them. We're going to take a short break. We're going to halt on the Sabres talk for now. And we're going to talk playoffs here next on 91.3 FM WBNY. What? 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. We are Neutral Ice, the best talk show in Buffalo for hockey, and we are living it up here right now. It's playoff time in hockey, glorious time.
Playoffs? What are you talking about, playoffs?
Oh, God. Every time I say that word. Okay, guys, it's old. It's old. I'm sorry. The Jim Mora thing is old.
You know what else?
It happens too much.
But you know what else is old and gold?
What?
Have another donut.
Oh, my God.
Have another donut.
This is just silly. It's just silly. It's what it is. All right. Frank's not.
No one cares!
Thank you for that. I really needed that. That's not sarcasm. Thank you.
I'm going home. Bye.
Bye. See ya. Bye. Hope you find your dad.
Bye, Frank. Hope you find your dad.
Playoffs coming up right now. There's definitely some interesting. All right, everybody, shut up now. All right, there's definitely some interesting matches. This is just chaos. There's some really interesting matches coming up in these playoffs right now. I want to first off talk before we get into those matches, though. A couple of teams that missed that'll be back next year. What are some teams that missed that'll be back next year?
New Jersey.
Columbus.
All right, let's realistically speak here, Chris, because your team sucks. I'm sorry. Corey Schneider's a great goalie, but holy cow. If they get McDavid, maybe, but they need help. Now, however, they do have a good goalie, so that's one thing going for them. They have a really good goalie and a good offseason. You can always change anything, but right now, how things are going, the team in the East that needs to be talked about, I'm pretty sure there's only one team in the East I would feel sure about that's going to be back in the playoffs next year that didn't make it this year, and that's Columbus.
Yep.
Why do we say Columbus, guys?
Because they won like the last 12 of the 12 of the last 13 games.
I would say it's because of the fact that they lost over 500 man games to injury.
That is astounding. How many games?
Over 500.
It's over 500.
That is
500.
Yeah.
Imagine if they win the lottery somehow. Like they could be not only could they be a playoff team, but they could be an elite
They'd
team.
be a cup team immediately.
A dynasty.
Yeah.
Especially because they got a Johansson contract that is not too much money.
No.
I mean,
no, they got him for dirt cheap.
No
wonder he held out.
What was the term on that? Was it like 3 years?
No.
It was 3 years, I thought.
I can't ever remember.
I'll look it up.
We'll look it up on the
But I love Johansson when he's in the shootout and he just like kind of dangles and then he stops and just waits and waits and waits and waits and then he gets like near the crease and then finally just puts it home.
Makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
Columbus is a really good team. Bobrovsky was missed in net a lot of the year. You look at that Columbus team right now, they already came out, and if they don't get the top pick, which they're probably not going to, they are going to go make a trade. It was tweeted that they are going to have a captain next year, and that could be like Nick Foligno. However, a realistic opportunity for them is they could go out and trade for a player like Jeff Skinner or go out and trade for a player. Could you imagine a scenario like that?
Yeah, that too.
Sean Bergenheim.
So I got the Johansson contract if you want it real quick.
Yeah.
It was 3 years, $4 million each.
What?
He'll be an RFA in 2017. What I forgot though is they also have that David Clarkson contract to deal with now.
They do, but
that's not a problem.
That's not as big of a problem.
But it kind of makes up for not having to pay Johansson like a crazy amount.
Yeah, but also now you have, but it also makes David Clarkson value now to your team.
And Clarkson would probably be a pretty good third or fourth line player for the Columbus Blue
Which is
Jackets.
exactly what he'll probably be next year as a third line player.
I mean, I'm not really. He could do what he did in New Jersey and be like a 30 goal scorer if Columbus is really good. Too.
Oh yeah,
So
I think he
it's
could.
possible.
But
he's not on the laps anymore.
In Toronto, they paid him to be a first or second line winger, and they expected him to do it. And then when he didn't do it, it was like, oh, it's all over. The world's ending.
But don't worry, Mikhail Grabovski is a bad player.
And he was playing with Bozak in Toronto. I want to ask Chris something because he saw him play on a nightly basis in New Jersey. Like, what center was he normally playing with in New Jersey?
Well, he was always playing with either Kovalchuk or Parise.
Oh, right. So if you put him with a player that caliber, which Columbus has, and Johansson,
it was a lot of the times he was playing with Parise. Parise's more of a setup man than a goal scorer. So Carson played first line power play and stood in the middle of the ice too, which was a lot of his goals.
And anytime you have, I hate him as much as you want, Chris, but Ilya Kovalchuk was a great player.
I don't
disagree.
Say that I don't disagree with that, but
I know it's a sore spot for
the
him.
NHL is probably a better place with Ilya Kovalchuk in the league.
Oh yeah,
really it is.
But that being said, not going too far into that, the main point of this is Columbus Blue Jackets, they'll be in next year if they stay healthy, and they're probably going to get better over the offseason.
Yeah,
that's the scary part.
I think Sonny Milano might be coming into the NHL next year.
Sonny Milano is still got one more year of eligibility in the OHL with the Flint Firebirds now.
Flint Firebirds.
So, I mean, he might have a chance to get in, but
but I mean, he's going to have to make it with the Blue Jackets right out, and I don't think he's ready.
I don't think so either. He's a great player, but again, the Blue Jackets are going to be good. I don't really think there's any other teams from the East that you feel really super strong about that didn't get in. Boston's in a situation where they may actually have to trade away a lot of players.
Boston's trending down.
Yeah, they are.
They're not re-signing Dan Pyatt or Greg Campbell.
No.
Okay.
That's not a huge loss for the Bruins.
No fourth line.
They have some youth coming up, but I think they may be in an in-between year next year where they have younger guys who are coming up and getting better, but they have older guys getting worse.
I think they'll end up like Philly of this past year, where they're good enough to win games, but they're not going to be a playoff team.
They have a better defense than Philly, though. That's an understatement. But that being said, Philly's another team where you're like, well, with Voracek and Giroux,
it's really all they got, though.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, Simmons too, but they lack depth.
So that's
the depth that they had. It was perceived to have been better than it actually performed this year.
Other teams that realistically could bounce back, you would have to think Florida gets better. Being younger, potentially, maybe they can make a run with some certain offseason acquisitions, and they re-signed Jagr. So that's a team that maybe. It's not a team I feel good about.
I think Florida absolutely has a chance to make the playoffs next year.
I would pick them, too. I think
I would
people
pick
might
them as
disagree
well.
with me. I actually picked them to make it this year. I just see them as a team
and
that's
then
on the
if
rise.
they are out of the playoff race by the trade deadline, they can trade Jagr to a new team, another new team. It would be, what, his 13th new team or something like that?
He's running out of teams, so.
Yeah. So that being said.
Trade him to Buffalo.
Yeah, but that being said, Panthers, and you're not looking like you're not expecting a Sabres team or a
unless Tim Murray makes some incredible changes. All the players like Ristolainen and Zadorov are playing like top defensemen in the league. And then McDavid, if the Sabres win the draft lottery, get McDavid, and he just plays lights out, then
everything
not expected.
Everything has to go right. Sabres also have to get a goalie. They're a year away, really, with a lot of good moves to become a really good team.
Although if Mike Babcock does coach the team next year,
it's
if he gets hired as the coach, you might be able to pick the Sabres as one of those fringe teams that sticks around all year and then maybe squeaks into the playoffs in like the last minute. Or
with the recent success of Calgary and Colorado in today's NHL, young teams have been able to get into the playoffs. So I think that bodes well for the Sabres' chances with proper coaching. The thing they're going to need, though, is good goaltending.
Who would you feel has the best chance to fall out? Because they would have to take over someone that's in now.
Pittsburgh Penguins right now if they can't get healthy, and I understand. I understand that that's a long shot. Detroit is there too.
Speaking of goaltending,
and by the way, before we get to that too, is Howard is not starting Game 1 for the Red Wings.
Peter Mrazek. Anyways, speaking of goaltending, me and Joe had this conversation on Twitter 2 days ago or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
We both came to the conclusion that if the Buffalo Sabres signed Matt Connor, the free agent college goaltender from Boston University, you pretty much can guarantee that Anders Lindback will not be back next season.
No, that's pretty guaranteed.
Because they're two goaltenders who are very similar sizes, except that Lindback is like 5 years older than Matt O'Connor.
And Chad Johnson has a contract, so you can't bring both.
Yeah, and Chad Johnson's got 1 year left on his deal, so Chad Johnson is pretty much sure to be back unless the Sabres decide to trade him.
And he's not small either. He's 6'3". So
yeah,
it's not
6'3".
Like, it's not like Murray looks big goaltender, so I want Lindback over Johnson. I mean, Johnson's still got size.
I really do believe the Sabres should make a strong push for Matt O'Connor. Yeah, I understand that in the national championship game, he might have cost his team the victory because of that drop puck that he had in the third period that went into his own net. Goalies make mistakes all the time. I had this conversation earlier. Patrick Waugh did it in a playoff game. Marty Brodeur did it in the Stanley Cup Finals, making a mistake like that. That stuff happens to every goaltender in the NHL. Jonathan Quick had it happen to him 2 years ago or something like that.
I mean, if anything, maybe it helps you because demand
Better
might decrease a little bit. But I don't think any NHL GM, unless you're Craig McTavish, thinks that matters.
From developing, better to have it happen now than have it to happen in a big NHL game as well.
Yeah, you can almost guarantee he'll never make that mistake again.
Now, here's something, though. Artur Zerbe may come back next season as the Sabres goalie coach. He is under contract. It all depends on the new coaching staff. So let's say if Babcock comes in, he has the choice of retaining Artur Zerbe or saying, like, I'm going a different direction and we're bringing in our own guys. So then Artur Zerbe would be.
And if you look into the analytics of it and seeing how well Anders Lindback improved when he showed up in Buffalo and how Jonas Enroth fell off a bit, and maybe a bit.
Michael Neuvirth even fell off a bit too.
Exactly.
Here's the deal.
It makes a ringing endorsement to Artur Zerbe.
Zerbe did a great job coaching. I was talking to Jim Vaca, who's a friend of a couple of us here, and he's a Stars fan, and he was just like, man, I would love to have a goalie coach like that in Dallas right now.
Now, you even see it with Team Latvia when Artur Zerbe was coaching them for the Olympics. They had Kristers Gudlevskis, and then they had, who's the other guy that they had that played really well? I can't remember his name because I don't think.
Edgar's Malaskis, I think.
Yes. Malaskis, yes.
Yeah, it was.
Good call, Frank. Good call. Brownie points to you.
Frank and
Latvia. Both players were extremely. They played extremely well for their caliber of goaltending.
Over their head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially against Canada. They took Canada 1-1 all the way to like 2 minutes left in the third period when Canada scored and eventually won. But still, Kristers Gudlevskis, he faced over 50 shots in that game in the quarterfinals against Canada. And somehow was able to keep everything out of the way. So Artur Zerbe has proven over the past couple of years that he's capable of being a good goaltending coach in the NHL.
Not
it's
good.
just
great.
Yeah, great. I agree.
I think I saw something that if Babcock were to leave Detroit, most of his staff would stay there, and they would just bring in the AHL coach to be the head coach. So I don't necessarily think it would be a scenario where he would be bringing his goaltender coach from Detroit. So maybe there would be an opening there where Zerbe could get it.
That's going to be a talk for another time because we're going to be talking about the head coach vacancy because Murray said there's no timetable, and I think what that means is we're going to wait till Detroit gets out of the playoffs and make a run at Babcock.
And they're also probably going to wait to even think about anything until after the draft lottery, which is Saturday.
Yes, it is. And so it's going to be very big.
So next week on Neutral Ice, we will know whether Buffalo's getting Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel, which is what's the word I'm looking for this? It's quite
monumental.
Monumental. That's a good word.
So humongous big.
So, but that being said, I want to move on. We've talked about the Sabres a lot and where they're going with that goaltending, coaching changes. There's a lot there. Columbus Blue Jackets in the East. I want to get to the West right now about teams who in the West is going to bounce back. An obvious one, we mentioned them before. Apparently, there's a lot of rumors that they're going to readdress their defense. It may drastically be changed heading into next year. The Dallas Stars. They're a team that just simply outshot everybody, scored on a lot of people, but didn't outscore enough people. A team that just was monstrous. And, again, Jamie Benn. What did he do, guys?
He only robbed the Art Ross trophy from John Tavares.
Because he knew Brock Nelson was going to win it first for the Islanders.
Yes.
That being said,
right.
Jamie Benn, terrific on this team. And this was without Tyler Seguin for a while as well. That being said, it also helps when Jason Spezza's there. And my personal favorite grinder, Patrick Eaves, the glory man. But that being said, the Dallas Stars are a very, very good team, and if not for some atrocious goaltending and defense, would probably be where a team like Winnipeg was in the wild card right now.
Yep.
So I think that's a team to bounce back. What are you guys' thoughts in the West about teams bouncing back?
I think LA is going to benefit from not being in the playoffs and making another long postseason run. This is a team that could finally get itself, recuperated and restock and be ready to go for another year. They'll be back in the playoffs next year.
Joe, any thoughts?
I pretty much agree with those two. Some people might say like San Jose would bounce back. I think they might implode this year.
Yeah, I think
they're
San
going
Jose
to implode.
Yeah.
We've been saying that for a long time. They finally missed the playoffs. My real question is San Jose going to start the rebuild with Marlowe and with Thornton and all these guys getting older?
They shouldn't. They should start the rebuild, but they shouldn't start the rebuild with those guys still on the team. That's what I was.
And that's what I'm asking, because if San Jose starts a rebuild, you're looking at teams. There's always a team or two that says, okay, we're going to have to rebuild now because we've let this go too long and we didn't invest in younger prospects while we were doing it. Our window is past it. Now we have to go into more of a rebuilding mode. We can't kind of just, kind of half do it. That being said, if the Stars go into rebuilding mode, players are getting traded, and the Maple Leafs won't be the only ones at the draft that are going to be unloading players. That's a scary thought when you think about Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau potentially on the trade market.
God, Papa Joe, yes, please, and twice again.
So,
no thanks.
So Braden says no thanks. Why is that?
He's 35. His stats are progressively just dipping down and down. He has had some injury problems, not much, but I mean he's gradually getting older. He's probably going to get more injured. He plays a rough and tough style of game. It's not going to last that long.
And a $7 million cap.
And a $7 million cap hit till 2018. That is a big factor of it as well. I do not want Joe Thornton. Joe Thornton is best suited for a team who wants to be a Stanley Cup contender now. So, that's the best way to trade players is, like Tim Murray said, you trade players when you're not a playoff team. You trade players to teams that want to win the Stanley Cup, and that's how you do business. I believe that a team, I don't know, a team that will get bumped early this year or something like that, and that want to make a deeper run next year or try to, they might go out and get a Joe Thornton or a Patrick Marleau because they're both very good players. They're both superstar talents.
You're going to have to ask them to be ready for the cap hit. The only reason why I say that is because a team that may be on the upwards, a team like Florida or a team like even Buffalo, who are going to be looking at, those are teams that are going to be looking to win now. Murray's not a guy who's going to be necessarily like, we have to do it now, but he's going to be looking to be better. I'm just throwing out the notion that San Jose is a team that I could see potentially hitting the mode where we finally trade these players, because if we hold on to them any longer, we're going to get no value. If you hold on, now if you wait a year, now Joe Thornton's 36, and that goes from potentially getting like maybe a later first rounder for him /
their prospects pool in San Jose is not even that great neither.
No, and that's the problem. That's the problem you look at. Who is going to be able to trade for a player like that has prospects to give and draft picks? That's the question you have to ask if San Jose goes into a rebuilding mode. They're going to be looking for certain people to buy, not just they're not going to go up to a team that doesn't have a lot to give. They're not going to be like, hey, Minnesota Wild, you interested? Oh, wait, you don't have anybody.
San Jose does pick 9th in the draft this year.
They do. That's if they don't get Connor McDavid.
The one thing that might hold them back from rebuilding is they've got Couture and Pavelski going into the prime of their careers. Do they really want to take everything down when these two guys are going to be at the best?
They're going to be relied on a lot. That's going to be.
As a Sabre fan, I would be very interested in trading for one of those two. I just think that's pretty unrealistic.
I'm just not sure that the Sharks need to fully rebuild. I'm just talking about getting rid of some of their older players to invest in some.
There's three people. There's three people on the San Jose Sharks that team needs to build around. A, Logan Couture, B, Joe Pavelski, and C, Marc-Edouard Vlasic. You build around those three players.
And Brent Burns. Would you throw him in there? He's a little tougher for me. Like, I think he has value, and he's kind of almost in between the Coutures and the Thorntons.
Another problem though with that as well. San Jose's going to need a goalie, guys. They have Stalock, but Stalock the guy.
Not a starter. He got the opportunity this year, and he didn't look that good.
So again, that's a big question too about with Niemi not to be there. So that's my point, is that San Jose's not a team that we look at right now and we go, we think they're going to be in the playoffs again next year. I don't think we feel that with the rise of Dallas. Calgary's only going to get better. Winnipeg is a team that has a lot of youth that's getting better as well. Maybe they got a lucky run here. You cannot deny how good Winnipeg looked the last week and a half of the season. They looked pretty good, and they beat good teams to get into the playoffs. So with that being said, not looking good for the San Jose Sharks. I'll be interested to see what happens in the next 2 months with that team and how they approach the NHL draft and see if they try to make another go at it. But living in Buffalo, we've seen a lot of 10th place teams, and they're not a lot of fun.
They're not. I mean, they're exciting in the last couple of weeks until the disappointment officially hits. But yeah, I feel like that we feel for them.
Yeah. So that being said, I want to talk about playoffs. We got very little time here left right now, but playoffs don't start until Wednesday. But early predictions right now on the playoffs heading forth. I want to know, anybody got. We talked about this way earlier on the show. Anybody changing from their originally Cup predictions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brayton started off.
Well, I had originally from, I think, the trade deadline, I had the Blackhawks and the Rangers going to the Cup Finals. Now, it's going to be huge because the Blackhawks get Patrick Kane back. He's going to probably play tomorrow. He was cleared to play tomorrow. So that helps them out a lot. I think they beat Nashville in the first round. But then the best series that I think that everyone here is having problems deciding who's going to win is Minnesota and St. Louis. That series is a tough series to pick because, I mean,
I'm
if
angry
you're
'cause
judging
it's in the first round.
If you're judging anything from the last game that they played, which was on Saturday, St. Louis killed Minnesota like 4-1. However, the fact is that both these teams are very good.
And Kemper was playing.
And Kemper was playing, and then Dubnyk came in, and so I've got Minnesota beating St. Louis, and I've got Minnesota running itself to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they're not going to win the Stanley Cup Finals.
Brayton, I'm exactly in your boat right there. I've got Minnesota losing to the Rangers.
I have the Minnesota Rangers. Oh my God, the Minnesota Rangers. I have the Minnesota Wild losing to the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals. My East predictions have not really changed. Although I will have to say, if you're looking for a perfect round one upset, Ottawa upsetting Montreal in the first round. Count it. Ottawa has played Montreal, I believe, 4 times this year, and Ottawa's beaten them 3 times.
Yes. And Montreal has not looked as good of late. On top of that,
Carey Price is the only person that's going to be able to carry Montreal.
Again,
that's why it's going to go 6 games.
We have said it multiple times. That Montreal is not high in puck possession, and when you look at last year's Stanley Cup Finals, the 2 teams that were better than everybody else were 2 of the top leaders in puck possession in the NHL. Montreal's nowhere near that. They're riding the hot streak. Montreal has more of a Colorado Avalanche of last year look than they do a team that's a New York Rangers type team. I totally agree with you. Ottawa Senators have been hot. Guys like Mark Stone and Hoffman have been great for the Senators. And not good, but great.
And that Andrew Hammond, he's so hot right now.
So and they also have a hot goaltender. So you almost have Price and Hammond almost cancel each other out right now. It should be a great series.
Another huge difference is goal differential this year. The New York Rangers were best in the NHL in goal differential at +60. And I want to tell the other ones, but my computer decided to not follow my lead. Here we go. Okay, so next would be Tampa Bay at +51. I mean, Montreal is 4th at +32, and then after that it's Ottawa at +23. But still, the fact is that
Price.
Yeah, Carey Price.
How many goals did Montreal actually score in comparison? That's
compared.
More
Montreal scored 221 goals this year compared to let's say Tampa Bay's 262 and even Ottawa's 238.
So, and Ottawa's doing it with very young players. Tampa Bay is an offensive juggernaut. I think the real loss in that situation is that Detroit has to face Tampa Bay. I think they must have felt pretty crappy about that. They would have much rather faced Montreal than Tampa. Yeah. That being said, Joe DiBiase, Stanley Cup picks.
Well, before the season started, I picked, I know I picked Tampa to win. I think I had them going against Minnesota. I changed it slightly where I have Minnesota losing in the first round of St. Louis. To me, though, the winner of that series, it was tough for me because I think the winner of that's going to make the Stanley Cup Finals. So I have Tampa Bay beating St. Louis. I have an upset in the first round. I think Winnipeg is going to beat Anaheim. I actually have Winnipeg going to the conference finals. I think the Pacific's just a really weak division, and Anaheim benefited from that. But yeah, I think Tampa, they're so offensive. They can get Bishop to play half decent. I think they go to the Cup.
Anaheim reminds us a lot of what San Jose used to be. Really good on paper,
and
but
then just flop.
And then just not so good. Does anybody else get that feeling?
I do. And another reason I have Winnipeg winning, they are quietly one of the better teams in the league in both puck possession and shot attempts, which are important advanced stats. So, I mean, they do rank very highly.
They're also a big team. They can hit you and physically impose their will on you.
Pavlik has played good hockey previous games.
Yeah, he's starting game 1.
Point in case, 1-0 victory, I believe, over the St. Louis Blues.
Yep.
And Pavlik was very impressive. If anybody saw the end of that game, that got chippy. If Winnipeg gets to play St. Louis somewhere down the line, that's going to be a very intense series. So
that would be in the conference finals, too.
Not to say that Minnesota and St. Louis is not going to be a crazy series as well. Chris Kowalchuk, Cup predictions.
I have Chicago winning over Tampa. I have Winnipeg in the conference finals, just like Joe. I have Tampa over the Rangers in the East Conference Finals. Anything else? Everything else is pretty standard. I'm really interested in Washington and the Islanders. I think that's going to be a fun series.
That's going to be a great series.
I think that's going to go 7.
See, I just can't agree with that. The Islanders played so poorly this past month of hockey.
There's one
in
factor.
Washington. And Washington has Alexander Ovechkin, a stronger defense, and Holtby's playing good hockey. I look at all those factors, and I have trouble justifying that the Islanders are going to be able to all of a sudden just play really competitive hockey all of a sudden when they haven't played well against good teams.
I have a fun stat for you here, Lip. 40 of the 86 points scored by John Tavares this season have come within the division, which this is a matchup within the division, Washington and New York.
Remember, as a Sabres fan, too, it benefits us if either the Islanders or Blues lose in the first round because we get the earlier pick. So
I just don't see. I do not see the Islanders getting past the Capitals. There's a reason.
Oh, yeah, not at all, but it's going to be entertaining.
The Capitals were – you talk about an Islander team that was first up until the last month and a half in the Metropolitan. And Washington, a team that was – one of the wild card teams, a 7-8 team all year. And the last month of play basically was, the Capitals keep getting better. Alexander Ovechkin keeps getting better as the year goes on.
6-3-1 in their last 10.
The game breaker for me is Alexander Ovechkin.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. Look, if I had to pick a player right now who I thought was hotter or more valuable to their team, look, I love Johnny T, but the fact of the matter is Alexander Ovechkin just went out of his mind in the last month of hockey for the Washington Capitals. They've been very good. Even in a game where it looked like they were resting players against the Bruins, they kicked the crap out of the Bruins.
That's the one team that I think could upend the New York Rangers if it gets to that point. It's the Washington Capitals. Yeah. If Alexander Ovechkin can carry that team like he did the last 30 games or so of the year, that will be an insane matchup for any of the New York Rangers defenders because, Ovechkin's proven he's unstoppable this year. He's one of the players in this league that are unstoppable this year.
Yeah. No, I like Ovi on offense better for what it means to the series than Tavares does for the Islanders.
Yep.
And I like Holtby better in net than I do Halak. Halak has been very inconsistent. We've seen that. One night you're shutting out the Sabres. I can't believe I have to say that. That's like it's a good thing. And then the next night it's just very inconsistent all year. And it's not like the Islanders have many options. Neuwirth has not played good before that. It's not something that I see. So I think it'll be very entertaining to see. However, I think it's honestly like a 5-game series.
Yeah, I think it's 5-6 at the best, but the Islanders should at least make it entertaining 5 games.
I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to give my cup predictions. I think the Rangers are going to win it all this year. I think this team is just dominant. When you look at this team, I'm not sure there are teams that are on the same level of caliber night in and night out. There is just ridiculousness. By the way, 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo's original Turf Society 2, brought to you by the Buffalo State College and Activity Fee. This team is really good. And I look at players like it doesn't matter if Lundqvist or Talbot's in that. This team just produces.
Yeah.
Keith Yandel is now on defense with this team. Like the Rangers needed any more ammunition heading into the year to do the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They have it. Nash is playing better than he did last year. St. Louis is still a very good player. Yandel, Stahl. You are loaded as a New York Rangers team. I think it's really going to come down. I agree with everybody here for the most part. Minnesota, St. Louis, that series I think will determine who gets in the conference finals. Right now I have St. Louis. I think that's going to be a 7-game series personally, and I think St. Louis is just going to edge it out.
Yeah.
And I do respect the Blackhawks call though, because the Blackhawks just seem to always find a way to win.
I feel like essentially it's the winner of the Chicago series against whoever they play, be it Minnesota or St. Louis. Whoever plays in that playoff series, I think is representing your West.
Does anybody really think Nashville is going to beat Chicago?
No.
I actually picked them too.
I do not think so.
I've watched
Nashville struggled.
They have been one of the worst teams since the NHL trade deadline.
They did. I don't think Kane's 100%, and I think they're going to try to play him as though he is.
Oh, of course they are.
Yeah.
Of course they are, but Patrick
Kane's
Kane's talent level.
I know.
Got the depth.
I think Nashville has
let's let
underrated
Joe
depth,
talk.
though,
Come on.
And I think when you look at defensive cores, Nick just was talking about the Rangers, who I agree are the best in the league.
Cody Franzen.
I think Cody Franzen has not played that well, but he's still their 5th defenseman. I think Nashville has, if not, they probably to me have the 2nd best defensive core in the league, and Rene is capable of stealing a series, and he was playing amazing early in the season. He's tailed off a little bit, but I'm also picking it because a lot of people are picking Chicago, and that's how you can kind of win brackets, pick teams that not everyone else is picking, but I think there's a real chance Nashville takes this one.
It's really good. Before we end our show, getting into next week, and we'll talk about this, I want you guys to name your top 3 teams you think have no chance of going anywhere in the playoffs this year. Your top 3 teams that have no chance, starting with Derek.
Pittsburgh, Vancouver, and Montreal.
Okay. Next.
Pittsburgh, Detroit, Vancouver.
Oh, yeah, Detroit. I have a couple, but over the 3, but I'll pick, I don't know, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and Detroit. I think they're all in the East. I think the East is going to be easy to predict.
Yeah.
Nashville, Detroit, and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm pretty much close with that one, but I'm gonna go I'm not gonna go Nashville because Rene can steal a series. However, very close to that, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and I cannot get on board with the Islanders at all. I really can't.
Pittsburgh, Detroit, and the Islanders. Yeah,
I think the parity in the West is much closer than the East. Yeah, it's funny saying that because you look at it, you go the Flames in Vancouver. You don't feel as good about, but you know the Flames can produce points when their defense produces points. That team is dangerous.
It's hard to say one of those two when they're playing each other because, I mean, you win a series and you can get a hot goalie. It's like, I mean, it's hard to say Calgary has no chance because, I mean, they're probably not as good as the Islanders or Pittsburgh, but they get to play
Calgary's
going
to have to ride Jonas Hiller for the playoffs because
is he starting over Ramo?
Yeah, Ramo's hurt.
Oh, right.
Ramo's hurt. They're not going to start Yanni Ortio until something like that happens.
And the status on Ryan Miller.
He's healthy, but Eddie Lack's going to play. Ryan Miller will back him up. But I guarantee you that if one of those players have a bad run, the other goaltender is going to be right there, ready to go the next game or even later on in a game if one of them gets pulled. That one's going to probably go 7 games. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if, of course, the Blues and Wild go 7 games. Really, all the Western teams could go 7. All the Western series could go 7 games. The only series in the East I can see go 7 games is Montreal and Ottawa.
Yeah,
the M's and the T's today.
Goaltending, really, in that scenario. I mean, when you look at the East, it's like, I don't feel good if I'm Detroit against Tampa at all. The Pittsburgh Penguins are lucky they have a playoff spot. If they had to face any other team but the Buffalo Sabres in the last game of the year,
they very well may be out.
Yeah, legitimately. I mean, and of course, if Boston had any of their crap together, they would be out.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And then you look at the other series right for the Islanders again. Like I already said before, this is a team that I feel bad for because this team got so much better from last year. And they have a lot of really good players, and I love Boychuk and I love Tavares, but I think they're just playing outmatched against Washington in this series the way Washington's been playing. So the East, really, there's one series where I go, wow, this is going to be good, and I really think that is going to be the Senators and the Canadian series.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, you would think Crosby, a rematch against New York, especially how close. Like, Pittsburgh should have won that series last year.
Oh, they should have crushed New York.
And Lundqvist just went out of his mind. That being said, the Rangers, Pittsburgh's destroyed, man. They're not going to be able to stop
They don't have their
Nash.
top 3
This is not
defensemen.
the same Pittsburgh team that many people know.
No, it's not at all.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have their top 3 defensemen. Letang's going to be gone the whole playoffs.
Yep, he's out for the year.
Yeah, and we don't know the status on Oli Mata and Christian Ehrhoff.
Oli Mata's out for the rest of the year. There's no question about it.
So Pittsburgh's not looking too good, and the West should be really entertaining.
It's going to be very entertaining.
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
It's been, I think, 23 years now since the Canadian team's won. If you had to pick a Canadian team to win the Cup, who would you pick?
Winnipeg.
My pick would also be Winnipeg, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't care.
I can't believe that Winnipeg's the team getting picked. A team that sneaks in the wild card.
I'm going to pick none.
So you got to pick one. If there's one to do it,
if I'm going to pick one to do it, I'm going to say the Hamburglar in Ottawa because of the fact that Andrew Hammond lost 3 games all year.
It's a great story. I would love to see Ottawa go deep into the playoffs.
But I think that I really respect Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago. I don't think Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Calgary have a chance.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, kudos for Canada having all these playoff teams, but I don't.
None of them are in a great situation.
Minus Edmonton and Toronto.
The laughs.
I don't feel good about Calgary or Vancouver. I agree with you. Winnipeg's a hot team, and Chris, I almost have to agree with you on it. The only reason why I say that is because I don't see anybody getting by the Rangers in the East.
Wouldn't
like
it be
Ottawa.
great? Wouldn't it be great if the second round matchup consisted of the Winnipeg Jets and the Calgary Flames? That would be one of the most exciting series I think that I would see in a while, because you got a Winnipeg team who is hot down the stretch. You got a Calgary team who has some superstar young talented players on their offense, and Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Sam Bennett now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would be a fun series to watch.
I have that as a second-round series.
Oh, well, good, Frank. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Hoodler has played great this year, too.
Oh, my God.
On that line
he's
with
played
Monahan.
Quietly the 8th.
He's played good, but it's just as equally impressive if you're going to have Vancouver against. Vancouver wouldn't be against Winnipeg, right?
Yes, they would.
They would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they would.
That's right. So you could have. It'd be just equally as impressive. You still have Canada versus Canada with Vancouver. In all honesty, no offense to Calgary, I think Vancouver's a better team, and I think Vancouver. Personally, I have Vancouver winning that series. Calgary's a good team, but they need too much production from their defensemen, and they have questions at goalie.
Calgary might get Giordano back.
Maybe.
No.
Is that absolutely
no?
not?
He's out. When he was injured, he was out 4 to 5 months. That was his diagnosis.
I heard
he's been out only like a month.
There's been rumors that he'll make a comeback in the playoffs. I think that's a hodgepodge.
That's a stretch.
That's hodgepodge.
They would have to make the cup, and he would probably.
That's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it happening. Calgary wins when they get production from their defensemen. The fact is, Calgary's been outshot in a lot of games this year. They've played well in a lot of closer games. But did you guys watch those Coyote Calgary games?
No.
Anybody see that?
I did.
I did.
Okay. And did Calgary look like a team that was really good for the playoffs? A lot of that game?
Not really. No.
No, they didn't. They didn't really look. They
closed it out in the third period, though. That's been one of the best things that Calgary can do this year is close out things in the third period.
There's a problem, though, when you got to go up against a team that's much better than Arizona in the playoffs. I'm not sure they're going to last 7 games. I could see that series going 7 games. I'm just not sure it's going in Calgary's favor. Vancouver's not not mightily impressive. The thing that I'm taking away from this is, Chris, you make a very good point about a hot Winnipeg team. The team is going to, if they do upset the Ducks, they're going to probably, in all honesty, the way they've played, be favored when whoever they face in the second round of the playoffs, and that's going to give them an opportunity to make the finals. So if you're asking me right now, what Canadian team I think has the best chance to make the conference finals, then to get to the Cup to have a chance, I think it's the Winnipeg Jets, and I can't believe it because 4 weeks ago, I didn't even think Winnipeg was going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Winnipeg. I like Winnipeg a lot, and I've kind of been on the Winnipeg train lately, and I've kind of been belittled for it, but that's okay.
Only because
only
of Blake
one
Wheeler.
Game.
It's all stems from his.
Yeah, it's all stems from
It's just from fantasy. I just like Blake Wheeler.
So no, but they have played a good game, and you look at players. Drew Stafford, Tyler Myers have definitely helped that team.
They're gonna get Bufflin back.
So they're going to get they have Bufflin back for this series coming up. But the biggest thing for Winnipeg is goaltending cannot fall off the rails. I repeat, their goaltending cannot fall off the rails. If that happens, Winnipeg is doomed. If you go into this Anaheim series and all of a sudden Pavlik turns into old Pavlik, where one game he's on, the next game he's off, Anaheim. The thing is, Winnipeg has to be.
Anaheim will take advantage.
Anaheim will take advantage. Anaheim will make a playoff run. Anaheim will destroy you.
Let me ask you this: how quickly would you take Pavlik out if he does, with Hutchinson behind him? If Pavlik does start to look bad,
only if you go down like 0-3 or like 1-3, and Pavlik has struggled in like 3 out of 4 games.
See, to me, like if they go to the first 2 games and he allows 4 or 5 goals,
yeah,
if
it's
then
2
I
in
switch,
a row,
because I think Hutchinson's played well enough where he can be a guy you go to where it's not a huge drop off.
Yeah, say they win one of the 3 games and Pavlik's given up 4 goals and 4 goals plus in each game. That's when I would do it, even if it's a 1-2 series.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Brayden? Nah, no more thoughts on Winnipeg. Winnipeg's really good, and I'm excited to see it. The fans of Winnipeg really deserve to see a team like that. They've been through a lot of hardship over the past basically 2 decades, not having a hockey team.
Is Timu going to drop the opening puck in the opener for each game for each team?
He should.
It's the Solani Alumni Bowl.
Yeah, that's got to be cool.
Should just happen. It's absolutely great, and it's good for hockey. Everybody agrees it's good for hockey seeing Winnipeg.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So happy to see Winnipeg in the playoffs. Wish the best for them against the Ducks. For any Stars fans that are listening, I know you're hoping to kick the crap out of the Ducks after last year's playoffs. That being said, I want to talk about this right before we go as the last thing. This hasn't come up, but I don't think we're going to get to it in another show for a long period of time. But league expansion. We talk about Winnipeg not having a team for a long time. Quebec. When's it going to happen, guys? I don't think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When's it going to happen? Is it going to happen 2017?
Yes, I think after the 2016 season.
2016. So we could be looking at a league expansion a couple years from now.
Yeah, after the 2016-2017 season, I guarantee you that there's going to be at least 2 more teams in the league.
I think that second team, in my humble opinion, is going to be Las Vegas.
Las Vegas seems right now that they are getting a ton of attention, and they would have the stability.
They're my favorite. They're my favorite to have a team over even Quebec.
The problem
Quebec
needs a team
Quebec
first before
needs
Las
a
Vegas.
They do, but the problem I see with Quebec getting a team over like Vegas, or if it's dependent to me on whether Seattle can get their arena thing going.
Yeah, if Seattle can get the ball moving.
The way it stands right now, you've got 2 more teams in the East and in the West. I think in a perfect world, you would like to even that out and get 2 teams in the West, and Vegas and Seattle make that happen. I mean, to me, this probably won't happen, but personally, I would like to see you expand into Seattle and Vegas, and then you move Florida to Quebec. That's what I would like to see.
That might probably be the best way to look at it, period.
That might be crazy.
I'm not
work.
I'm not going to if Gary Bettman is still the commissioner, I don't think you're going to see Florida or Arizona move. He will do anything he can to keep those teams where they're going to be. As much sense as it would make for Florida not to be in Florida.
Unless the Florida Panthers pulled a Atlanta Thrashers where they're all of a sudden like $500,000 or whatever it was, $50 million. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was $50 million in debt.
$50 million?
Something like that. Yeah, it was crazy. I thought it was
$1 billion quadrillion
million yen.
By the way, Quebec did just recently finish their new arena, which they named the Videotron Arena, and just by looking at pictures,
I don't think it's finished. The outside's finished, but they're working on the inside.
The inside looks like, it doesn't look like it's completely finished, but
Quebec's
the seats are there.
That's where the REM parts are moving to.
Quebec's going to have a hockey team. The only other question I will ask specifically about other cities in this regard, does Toronto in the run for a second team?
If they can get the Markham
the arena
stadium going, maybe. But I think what Quebec's trying to do is they're trying to finish the Videotron Arena as right before the Memorial Cup. So then when the Memorial Cup comes, they're all playing there in the new arena, and I think that's what they're trying to get done. Which I think the Memorial Cup is going to be quite interesting this year because there are some really, really good teams and some really, really good 2015 draft eligible prospects on these teams that are still in the playoffs. And if everything kind of falls into place, it would be extremely awesome watching them. Like if the Erie Otters went to the OHL or to the Memorial Cup, that would be great, but they got to get past Sault Ste. Marie, and then they got to get past Oshawa.
It would be more important, honestly, for Dylan Strome. Anything else, McDavid's going number 1. A player like Strome to see what he could do in a competition like that could be huge for his draft stock. That being said, with Quebec getting a team, I think again, really great for hockey, really great to see. You like seeing Canadian teams because they're embraced by the community. It's just good for hockey. There's so many Canadian players.
It would even it out, too, because there's 7 Canada teams. There's 7 Canadian teams right now. If you add Quebec City as the 8th team, you could just have, like, on Canada Day, I don't even remember what day that is, but it's during the hockey season on Canada Day.
Like February.
Yeah, it's like February or something. All 8 teams can play against each other instead of 6 teams, and then Buffalo can play Toronto, and we'll technically call that a Canada game. Where it's just maybe all the Canadian fans will come down to Buffalo, but
what gives Quebec an advantage over especially a second Toronto team? I think it's really tough for them to put a second team in Toronto because remember when they were planning on moving the Coyotes to Hamilton, the Sabres and Maple Leafs both were very against that because it's tapping into their fan bases. So especially the Leafs, I think the Leafs would be so hard against it.
An Ontario Hockey League team.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying when they wanted to bring the NHL there, the Leafs and Sabres were happy about that. How are the Toronto Maple Leafs going to feel about the NHL wanting to put another team right in their area?
Probably sour.
Yeah, and that's I think if I'm not mistaken, the Leafs make the most money in the league.
And they probably want every bit of it.
I don't think they're going to want to piss off that team.
Brendan Shanahan did just clear house, so he's got more money to spend.
It'll be interesting to see. The question I have that needs to be investigated by all of us and speculated by anybody else, you need to be thinking now. And this is why I brought this situation up. You have McDavid. You have all these great prospects. You have Yakupov getting the 2-year bridge deal, and you have a potential deal coming to Grigorenko. We're talking 2 years from now, Quebec team, right? What is the expansion draft going to look like for a team like Quebec? That's a very big question. What's it going to be? What are teams in the NHL going to have to give up for other teams to pick from in a pool?
That's a question I don't think I have an answer for.
If you look back on when Columbus came in, the expansion draft I believe the Sabres gave up George St. Pierre or something. So like
Jean-Luc Grandpierre?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Thank you. So like a third liner, like I don't think you're gonna have to give up anything substantial, but like I don't know, a player they would have on the team now, you might have to give up I don't want to say Johan Larsson, but like a player of that caliber.
A player like that.
A young player.
That's
about
developing.
A third, fourth liner. The bigger issue I think will be teams at the bottom of that year in the standings. They might have to give up the top picks to those teams. Which is the bigger point. I think that's where the more value is.
Yeah.
It puts emphasis, though, on next year's draft, too, especially for a team like Arizona. You don't want to be in the downward next year, and you don't want to be in the cellar too long because that could hurt you. Also, are the picks put in guaranteed for those teams, or are they put into the new lottery system? That's another really interesting question.
Or do you just give an expansion team 1 and 2?
That's exactly the question. How are all these things going to work out? You have this new lottery system the NHL's trying out. You have new teams potentially entering the league, and you have expansion. So we have expansion rules you need to be thinking about from a front office position. You have, from a league perspective, how am I going to handle this from the lottery perspective? Are they just going to be thrown in with the highest odds for a pick automatically into that? Really interesting to think about right now. And something that needs to be taken into consideration and thought about now. Because, again, if you're a team that's competing 2 years from now and the Sabres are like, we finally got that piece of the puzzle. But now we got to give up, like, Delorier or something stupid like that, a player of that caliber, like a fourth line or something like that. Something that means something to the team. Cody Hodge should be. Yeah, take his contract. You guys are going to be over the cap the first year.
That'll be the Jacob Chychrun draft, if I got his name right.
The Jakob Chychrun?
Chychrun, yeah.
Jacob Chychrun, I don't know.
Like a man.
Jacob Chychrun is the 2016 next year's draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so is Austin Matthews next year, and
remember, Austin Matthews, if he was born a day earlier, he would have been in this year's draft.
Would have been insane.
Like, could you imagine? Like, 29th would have been acceptable.
Yeah, we would have actually not had pure hatred or vomit over the thought of 29th.
Yeah, we could have had our choice of Matthews, Eichel, or McDavid. That would have been probably the coup de grace of everybody saying like, okay, this top 3 of this draft is the best ever.
Marino,
without a doubt.
Marino, Elway, Kelly. Only comparison I can really think of as far as
but I mean to go 1, 2, 3 though.
How about the 05 draft?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a comparison.
No, there's no comparison in any draft.
No, there may not be. You'd have to go back and look pretty hard for a good comparison to that.
Well, let's even go back to the 2013 or the 2003 NHL draft and who was selected with the top 3 picks. Top 3 picks in the 2003 entry draft were Marc-Andre Fleury, Eric Staal, Nathan Horton.
And that's
decent.
That's decent, but like that's what the draft people look at as like one of the best drafts in the last few decades.
Overall.
I think it's a great draft. This is the point I want to make with this draft, okay? Nobody's arguing the 03 draft isn't one of the best drafts. However, I will argue you to the draft that this year, the top talent at this draft is some of the best top talent ever in a draft pool.
And remember, that's analyzing the 2003 draft afterwards.
Yeah.
When you look at it beforehand, I'm sure no one thought Fleury and Horton and these guys were going to be as good as people think McDavid and Eichel are going to be.
No, not at all. And does anybody really think Fleury is that great right now? Everybody keeps yelling at Fleury. Like, I think he's a really good goaltender.
He's a decent goalie. He's just not a number 1 pick.
No.
By any means.
No, he's not like, is Andre Fleury going to be in the Hall of Fame?
Probably not.
Okay, how do you feel about McDavid and Eichel?
With the potential that they have, they will be Hall of Famers first ballot.
Never, ever, you don't hear about Connor McDavid. We've been talking about for 5 years. That's not.
Well, we haven't, but Canada has been.
Canada people. I'm talking about how many times does Canada talk about? Were you hearing about Aaron Ekblad 6 years ago?
I heard about McDavid 4 years ago.
I heard about McDavid when he first came into the OHL with the Erie Otters and him signing a very big contract, an endorsement deal with the Nike Bauer, CCM, I believe.
Yeah, CCM.
All I'm saying is that these situations, people aren't talking about these players at that age, and then you don't see it also backed up along the way. Like, he's had the spotlight on him for that long and hasn't faltered one bit.
Not one bit at all.
What makes you think it's going to happen when he gets to the NHL?
The size difference and the different style of play. That's it.
Maybe at first.
But
Crosby had to overcome that as well.
Yeah, give it probably 20, 25 games, and I bet that McDavid's going to be right on track with everything. But here's the thing. I think personally that the OHL is the best Canadian Hockey League grouping that there is. Like, Crosby came from the Q.
Yeah.
The Q is a lot of very skilled players that score a lot of goals. In the OHL, yes, there's a lot of scoring, but it's like a perfect mixture of the Q and the WHL, where there's some tough guys in the WHL. Don't get me wrong. There's a guy like Nick Ritchie or Michael McCarron or,
Hayden Fleury.
Yeah, Hayden Fleury. Well, Hayden Fleury's in the Western Hockey League.
Is that what we were talking about?
No, we're talking about the OHL.
Oh, okay.
They're a perfect blend of like the WHL and the Q.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, yeah, because you got your big players like the Hunter Smith and everything like that. But with the WHL, there's a lot more of the rough and tough and grinding style of play, which would probably make Sam Reinhart a better player with being so skilled as he is and being as smart as he is. So when he comes to Buffalo, that will probably help him out. But I mean, Connor McDavid, give him 20 games. Give him 20 games. I guarantee you, give him the first 20 games. Everybody will probably be like, well, he's not playing as good as he was in the OHL. Well, no kidding. Give him 20 games. After 20 games, I guarantee you his mental preparation, his just everything that he puts into the game, it will change him dramatically after 20 games. And Jack Eichel, again, he might have the easiest time transitioning from college to the pros immediately, just because it's very similar with the player sizes.
Older
maybe not with the pace of play, but I think Eichel, if both players do play next year, I bet that Eichel might win the Rookie of the Year just based on the fact that he's playing with bigger players right now.
I don't know about that.
I know it's a bold statement.
I understand your point, and it makes total sense. I don't know if I'd go with it, though.
But then again, Connor McDavid could go on like a scoring spree like he did when he came back from the World Juniors and nearly win the scoring race.
See, because I look at like what Crosby did in his rookie year. That was a different league because when they first came back at the lockout, there was tons of power plays and they were calling everything. He scored 102 points.
And
he came out of the queue. So that's why I'm thinking McDavid's abilities are
and
similar.
Playing with Mario Lemieux helps.
Yeah, even
That is
if
true.
it was an older Mario Lemieux, but I mean, playing with Evander Kane's not going to hurt.
No. And the Sabres are still a young team. I mean, back when Crosby came in, he was the youngest player, of course, and obviously McDavid's going to be the youngest player, but still, the fact is that the Penguins were still an old team at that point. Buffalo, they're still a very young team. Brian Giunta, I believe, is going to be the oldest player on the team next year.
36? He'll be 36?
37, I believe.
37? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he that old?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, because his contract is a 35-plus contract. So yeah, I mean, McDavid, I think, is going to have a lot more of a spotlight on him in his first year in the NHL than Crosby did. And I think he's got a bigger spotlight on him now just because of the fact he's the first player since Crosby to be eligible for the draft. I mean, do you remember Sidney Crosby ever having a transition, like a show called Sidney Crosby Transitions on Sportsnet and everything like that? No.
I mean, he was getting attention. But
he was
not
getting
as much.
attention. But
Lockout year does not help either.
That doesn't help at all.
That's the biggest thing about the Crosby thing.
If anything, it helped him hype his draft stock and everything like that. But McDavid's getting all this hype, and there's playing right now.
Part of
that's huge.
I do want to say something about this too. I brought it up, and I started the beast right now, and I agree with you on most of this, Brayden. We have to take into consideration social media. Social media has been a big part of this. There's a reason why people are going immediately, oh my God, he scored 5 goals in a game. It's not because they watched it on SportsCenter. It's because
it's all on Twitter.
Yep.
It's all on Twitter. And you just got on the Twitter boat, and you're just realizing this now. Congratulations.
I did it, guys.
Speaking of Twitter, I saw something today that the Buffalo Buttes of the Women's Hockey League are going to be coming to Harbor Center. That's correct, right?
I believe so, yeah. I think they're playing their regular season games at the Harbor Center.
I mean, that'll be interesting to see how this new Women's Hockey League, because if that can achieve
if that
any
takes
success,
off,
it would be nice to
if
have a
that
team in
takes
Buffalo.
off, yeah, that would be unbelievable.
Nice.
It would be the original 4.
And I like the name Buffalo Buttes.
Then there's
what a butte
there's the Boston Pride, the Connecticut Whale, and then the New York Riveters.
Why can't they just name him Hartford? Just bring it back, guys.
I know.
No arena.
Live the dream. Come on.
Well,
Live the dream.
Well,
Keep the dream
sad
alive.
part is the sad part is that Hartford's never even talked about for a new NHL franchise, just because of the fact that they've completely. It's like once the Whalers left, they were just kind of like,
They
well.
they still should have a team over Carolina.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Hartford Whalers should still be there, even if, I mean, yeah, they shouldn't be the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes, the RBC Arena is in the middle of a giant field.
I have a
just in the middle of nowhere.
I have a friend who goes to Wake Forest University, which is right by the Carolina Hurricanes. No, he said there are no Hurricanes fans there. Like, the fan base is just non-existent.
No, exactly.
And he goes to games, and, like, a lot of times you're seeing fans wearing like jerseys of other teams. Like he compared it to the Bills playing in Toronto, where you go and fans are wearing
There's
teams
still
of just
signs
like every like
that explain icing in
Yes,
those arenas.
that's the best way to put it. That's
they
it.
put a sign up on the jumbotron explaining icing to them.
So yeah, I feel like
Carolina. Hate.
Yeah, we're Buffalo fans, so we're definitely biased.
Buffalo, we get things.
Yeah, we do get things.
We get losing.
Yeah, I just
even if it's on purpose.
Yeah, we all have our dream teams we'd love to see in the NHL, but we're happy hockey's back in Winnipeg. I guess that's where this stemmed from, and we think that there's a great draft pool this year and one of the best that we've ever seen.
Would you say going back to Winnipeg has worked?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
So what would stop the NHL from doing that again? That's my point.
Yeah, for cool.
Gary Bettman trying to save franchises that shouldn't be saved. That's the thing.
Quebec is getting a team.
Gary Bettman essentially having to admit that he's wrong.
Quebec is getting a team.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way around it. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm just giddy. I am. The NHL's moving in a good spot right now.
He's so happy.
I am. Well, if you think about it, look about where the NHL was.
Don't worry, you're only about 6 years away from another lockout.
Shut. Stop.
10 years ago.
I'm just being realistic.
10 years ago, the NHL was in a place where it's amazing because 20 years ago the NHL was hot, basketball wasn't, and then Gary Bettman comes in and ruins everything. But 10 years
Thanks, Batman.
10 years ago, you just look at the state of hockey was in. I mean, they only could get the Outdoor Network to cover their games.
Outdoor Living Network.
OLN.
Good old OLN.
It was like NHL and hunting.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's kind of what
LOLN
is.
And now what you look,
yeah, but it's like
not to the same extent.
It's NBC. It's not the Outdoor Living Network.
But think about this right now. Hockey, it's back. It's
back, baby.
You look at the Kings and the Rangers series last year, and you go, okay, we're catching on now. We're not just getting back. We're getting like, oh, okay,
major markets, make a play.
Major markets back, and now think about it right now for where you live right now. We're in Buffalo, and now you have the core of players, Eichel and McDavid,
big way,
that are going to carry this to that's going to bring more people back into hockey than ever before with McDavid and Eichel, and one of them is going to be a Sabre. And how great of a feeling does that have to be?
It's an amazing feeling. You've also got the World Cup coming to ESPN, so that should get some
also
exposure.
Hey, speaking of ESPN, the Frozen 4 finale was on ESPN.
Yeah.
Not
They're
ESPN
all.
two.
I want to make.
It's always on ESPN.
It always has been on ESPN.
I want to make a point about ESPN though. On the David Starman better not be on this World Cup thing. He's an analyst for the college hockey. He on the intermission report.
Who did this?
I was David Starman.
Oh.
I was yelling at the TV because in the intermission he made this like 5-minute argument on why if Edmonton gets the second pick, they should trade down or they should pass on Eichel for Hanifin. And I'm just watching this, and by this time, the lottery odds have already been clinched.
Some people.
It's impossible for Edmonton to get the second pick. Like, you should know that. Like, they cannot get the second pick. It's literally impossible. And he's trying to make the argument that they should trade if they get it.
So that's just incompetence. That being said,
ESPN hockey.
That being said, Buffalo, take pride because you got one of the top players in the future of the NHL, and this is great for the NHL, these players coming in, and it's going to be very exciting. And was that you sighing, Chris? Because I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm
watching a baseball game.
Yeah, I'm stressed for other reasons.
No one cares!
Brayden, that's the best sound clip.
I can't go to Sabre games for $5 anymore.
No, Sabre game will no longer be. Do we have an "I Will Remember You" like karaoke track somewhere in that library of wonderful things? Because that would be great if we could get that. We could say a farewell to $5 Sabre tickets.
I'm going to miss. No, you know what? No, I'm not going to miss $5 Sabre tickets. Last time I went for $5, The Sabres lost by a touchdown.
But don't be too disappointed because here come the $5 Leafs tickets.
Yeah. Oh no!
Yay!
It's bad. Oh my God!
Yes!
There we go. All right, I think this is the best way to wrap up stuff.
This
We just go around.
This
All
show
right.
makes me like the Leafs.
Oh.
Why?
We did it! We did. We're in Buffalo. We made the Leafs likable. We did it, guys!
Wait,
yeah!
is that doing it wrong?
I also never hated the Leafs either. So.
Oh, that's just a thing. It's like us liking the Rangers or the Flyers.
Yeah. Well,
All right, things you won't miss from the Buffalo Sabres. That is the roundup for today's show. Things you will not miss about the Buffalo Sabres. Okay, Derek, start us off with something classy.
Losing by like 4 goals or more.
I will not miss losing by 4 goals or more, nor will I miss losing by more points than the Bills lose on an average basis. Something I do not envy.
Also, getting outshot by more than 20. I will not miss that.
I will not miss. Agreed. I'm just going to re-announce everything. I will not miss being outshot by 30 shots and having a Corsi of a negative number lower than children are expected to count to by 2nd grade. Joe,
I have one.
Oh, good, Chris.
Joe talking about doing inappropriate things to Connor McDavid.
I will not miss
And it never happened.
I will never miss Joe talking about doing inappropriate things to Connor McDavid. Although
The only time I ever
Chris,
said-
you're not out of that boat if the Sabres get Connor McDavid.
The only time I ever said that is I said I'd break his leg if the Leafs got him.
It is Man Crush Monday, so let's all express our man crushes in the NHL. That's our next segment. Our man crushes in the NHL on Monday.
I got one more before we get to
wait.
that.
I got my thing.
Oh, here we go.
I will not miss Joe DiBiase comparing Cody Hodgson to Wayne Gretzky.
Or Andre Loktionov to Alexander Mogilny.
It was not serious.
Wait.
Not serious.
Did I not join the team yet when this
I'm
happened?
aware.
Oh, no, this
This
was in a different state.
This was in a different context, in a different situation. Joe was doing shots of water / sleep deprived, and it was not a good time.
All right. For all the
That's
listeners, for all the listeners out there, I am aware that Wayne Gretzky is better than Cody Hodgson. Okay. All right. And real quick, my thing I'm gonna miss about the Sabres and the tank this year is the amazing goaltending because it's probably gonna go away.
Something we will miss.
I will not miss having to play this almost every week.
Oh,
the league. Oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna. All right, we need to make. I want a tank banner in the arena.
raise
Yeah.
the.
I
So
will
they can
not.
just take away your first
I
round
will
pick.
not miss
After, like
the
3 years
word.
later.
I will not miss the T word. Rest.
Tank.
in Shut up, Aunt Larry.
I am with Joe on this. Can we get a 30th place banner raised at the first game of it, where it's like
All of this. I will not miss any of this. I'm going home.
next to the President's Trophy? We need to put it next to the President's Trophy banner. It just says, it's like President's Trophy. What was it? 0607, and then all of a sudden, right next to it, you just raise it up. It's just like 2015 30th place. You did it, Buffalo.
I will not miss any of this.
The Tank Report.
I will kind of. This has been a great social experiment. Any sociologists out there, if you didn't jump on this, this is a gold mine to listen to. We got recordings here at 91.3 FM WBNY of literally us just losing our mind.
I honestly think I'm the happiest that this is over.
I'm not sure about that.
Are you kidding? I was doing jumping jacks and almost crying in tears, or crying in joy the other day.
Joe, I don't have to listen to you talk about it anymore.
You're gonna hear me talk about
It was
Connor
worse.
McDavid forever.
The tank was worse for me because
All right.
I had to hear you talk about it.
Shut your mouth. You shut your devil's mouth right now.
All right. The difference is now instead of hearing me talk about how good these guys are, you're gonna watch how good they are with the Sabres.
And you're gonna wish you had that. But don't say that it was worse for you.
The Devils might get Connor McDavid.
You can look, but you can't touch.
But I'm
Chris.
saying, don't
you
say
can
it was worse
look,
for you.
but you can't touch.
To be a fan of the team and to see this constant warfare, Brayton, I'm gonna shove that tank report up your tank report.
The Tank Report.
This is a collage of sounds right now.
But this
It's
is more or
beautiful.
less about the fact that this fan base was in warfare for the entire year.
Wait. But we don't have to kill the tank report because I mean.
No, I'm just gonna
it's
shove it up.
Arizona.
I'm gonna shove it up the
Toronto
tank
next
report.
year. It's gonna be Arizona Toronto for this.
That sounds like their problem.
Oh, that's not that.
I don't understand why people think it's okay to just use my lines.
Well, guess what? I did, and I don't know why you have a problem with us getting a guarantee on McEichel.
I'm not.
Wait.
I have no problem with it.
Let's all relax. Let's all relax.
Oh my gosh!
Good time.
I'm just happy it's over. That's all I'm saying.
You and me both, my friend.
Guys, this is a great time to be a hockey fan right now. We don't need to be yelling in anger.
I think that's just.
This started with a Leafs comment. Let's all remember. Let's remember, this started with a Leafs joke.
So humongous big argument. Oh my god.
Oh my god, Brayton just. He's like pushing all of the buttons on the soundboard.
Quite
and I love
literally.
It.
He's pushing everybody's buttons metaphorically and literally.
Can we hear the Devils?
No.
The David Putty Devils.
No! God, please, no!
I'm just going to keep asking for it every week until I hear it.
No!
Derek! Dogs can hear you, all right?
And this is where people turn off the radio.
Oh, my God. 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo. You're listening to Neutralize for the best hockey show in the world.
I'm surprised that we're still going.
Oh, we're doing.
Really.
I'm surprised I'm still going.
We're having a lot of fun here, guys. But that's the feel in Buffalo. We're having a lot of fun. Yeah. We're trying to say, hey, look, this is great for hockey. McEichel, all of it going on. It's just embracing this. It's a celebration. It really is. And this is the event. Everything's over with, but it's never over till it's over.
With us. That's not true.
It totally is true. The draft. Do you not think people? We're all just saying, okay, Eichel is there. Or we have Eichel. Deep inside, all of us are just like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Your mic's going at half volume.
Oh boy. Oh, I got mine back. Cool. Thanks, Brayton.
There's only 20%.
You're at half too.
Okay.
You guys,
raise me back up.
you gotta be.
I'm not on probation.
You guys gotta be quiet.
No, but that's really that's the feeling inside. You'd lie to yourself to tell you it's okay. You lie to you, but you know it's not. You know there's this part inside of you that's just like, I'm okay with it, but I kind of just want to happen. Dear Lord, thank the NHL for making it April 18th, because I swear to God, if they would have made like the draft lottery like at the beginning of May.
Tomorrow. Last year at this point, it would have been tomorrow.
It was Tuesday, right before the playoffs.
It should have been that way, and it should have been the way that they're doing it now, but, whatever.
As long as Mike Babcock doesn't have to wait to see who gets Connor McDavid, because
as long as
I feel
Toronto
like
doesn't get McDavid,
I feel like he'll go wherever McDavid goes. There's a chance.
I don't think he has a choice unless McDavid goes to Philly, and he's like, I'm going to Philly
Or Buffalo.
Or Buffalo, yeah.
Or Toronto.
Yeah, I don't want him in Toronto.
I'm just doing whatever I can to not think about the lottery until it happens.
I mean, Mike Babcock could he go to the Devils if McDavid goes there? Like,
stop. That would no. I don't see Lamoriello being smart enough at this point to do that.
We need a new
at some point,
We
right?
need a new cart Brayton by next Monday, and it's called the Quest for Babcock.
Yes.
Get working on it.
All right.
I've already started.
I really truly believe after reading stuff that they are gonna have a chance at him.
I don't think that.
I think it's true.
I think they're the front runner.
Well, I think
very
Detroit
much could be.
Detroit might still be the front runner.
Well, yeah, Detroit.
It's kind of hard to walk
It
away
depends
from that.
because Buffalo's got all the credentials. They've got the young prospect pool that they have in their system that could be ready within the next 2 years.
Yep.
They've got the McEichel pick. They
got the
have,
money.
They have the owner that can pay the money. It's all there for Mike Babcock. It's just now
And the cap
just
space.
depending on can the Red Wings re-sign him? Because I guarantee you, if the Red Wings offer him a new contract, he will take it.
And let's remember, he did the same exact thing in 2004 with the Ducks, where the Ducks were the Mighty Ducks at the time. They wanted to keep him on, and he had just gone to the Stanley Cup Finals. He had success there. He went up to Detroit. Like, he's left before.
He it was similar. He wanted a new contract, and Anaheim was like, we don't want to pay you that much. So then Detroit's like, we'll pay you that much.
Yeah.
And Detroit's like, great, we got ourselves an excellent coach. Now Detroit's in that situation where it's like, well, I mean, you've been here a while. Can't you just take a hometown discount? It's like, no, I'm the best coach in the NHL.
I'm going to go to
Can
McDavid
anybody
in
here?
Buffalo.
Can anybody name a better coach in the NHL that's not Mike Babcock?
Harry Neal.
Harry Neal. Maybe Quenneville. Like, some would argue Quenneville, but
yeah.
Quenneville also has Taves and Kane, which Babcock doesn't have.
The Devils don't have a head coach.
I want to see the counter.
Yeah, that's part of their problem.
Harry Neal, assistant coach. Assistant coach Don Cherry. Get that coaching group
Ty
together.
Domi's the next coach of the Arizona Coyotes. I'm making a bet right now. It's going to happen.
That would be
Harry Neal
fun.
coached Gordie Howe.
Slapshot 10.
Let's not make fun of Harry Neal. He coached Gordie Howe.
That is true.
That's a true story, bro.
Arizona hiring Ty Domi is such a Darcy Aguirre move.
He kind of is.
You know that I like that. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty
hiring
good.
hiring Lindy Ruff would be a Darcy.
Lindy Ruff is apparently,
and then never firing him.
Lindy Ruff is going to stay in Dallas beyond all accounts because, in all honesty, Babcock has ties to potential Jim Nill. So that would have been interesting if the Stars went on the market for a coach.
Oh boy,
that would have been interesting. It doesn't look like that's going to happen though. So let's end that wildfire before that even starts. We got 5 to 10 minutes to talk about it. Might as well.
We've had 5 to 10 minutes for the past 35 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, seriously though, who do you guys think is going to be the coach? Because I
honestly think it's going to be Babcock. I mean, if you're not looking at that, it's going to be the former head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Cock and lobe.
Because I keep hearing Luke Richardson's name.
I'm actually that's going to be my guess.
Like, I don't really know if I want that. Like,
If
Binghamton
it's
missed
not
the playoffs
Babcock.
in the AHL this year. I don't know how qualified he is, or if he's just buddy with Tim or with Tim Murray.
I think Tim Murray is looking for those guys that will build a good relationship with him because, let's face it, Ted Nolan was not exactly the type of guy that was going to build a good relationship with a person like Tim Murray. They're almost two opposite people.
Yep.
They're two opposite people because Ted Nolan's going to just try and evade a question where it's just like, we didn't get it done today or something like that. Where Tim Murray's just like, no, we didn't get it done. We sucked.
I love Murray.
Mike Babcock, if you listen to him, he's like, guys that are just straightforward. Mike Babcock's one of those guys. Joel Quenneville is one of those guys. Those are the type of guys that you want. And I have a feeling that with the relationship that Murray and Luke Richardson built up, it could work. It's just Richardson. It's one of those things where, if Mike Babcock was not available this year, Luke Richardson would probably have already been hired as head coach. But since the fact that Mike Babcock is still out there and the possibility is there, it's almost just a safe bet that Tim Murray's waiting for that opportunity to be like, hey, Mike, come to Buffalo. We're going to take you and not let you leave.
I love Murray. I'm sorry. I do.
Pagulas will house Mike Babcock for like the first 6 months that he's in Buffalo, just until he gets acclimated to Buffalo and then buys a house or something like that.
And let's remember, Murray did work with Babcock in Anaheim for
absolutely.
Years. So they do have a connection.
Murray,
yes, they do.
Murray's just, you look at what Murray's done, and the president he sent. He just doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care about what it's supposed to be done. He cares about winning, and he cares about. And I know that people are like, "Oh, he cares about winning. Look at the team he fielded." It's not about this year. And if you're gonna use that as an excuse, you're an idiot. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. Let me tell it to you again, folks. I'm calling out the listeners who really believe that an idiot, and I'm sorry. I have to at that point. I know it's a little edgy, but guys, the Sabres weren't supposed to win this year. I need everybody on board to realize that. We all realize it here. Everybody else in the community needs to. There's some people in the community that still don't understand that fundamentally, but I'm saying it now. That's what it was. That's what it is. That's what happened. Murray just got you a generational player. Deal with it. He's not stopping there, okay? He got rid of Nolan. He's going to bring in a better coach. He's going to get rid of Lindbach. He's going to get rid of the players that aren't going to make this team better. This is going to be the offseason.
He's going to bring in Matt O'Connor, too.
Most likely?
I really think he's going to bring in Matt O'Connor.
Continue, I'm sorry.
Matt O'Connor hasn't signed anywhere yet. There hasn't been anything yet on whether Matt O'Connor has picked a team or he's thinking about picking a team. I think he's just taking this time to finish school. I think once school's finished, it ends in May. That might be when we hear about the signing. But, right now, Tim Murray's got all the time in the world. He really does. And this is the perfect scenario for him right now. The first thing he had to do was get last place. Now that he's got last place, the next step was firing Ted Nolan. He fired Ted Nolan. Now the next step is just sitting back and watching everything unfold.
Yep.
Because if Detroit loses in the first round,
which he won't. Well, yeah, because of the head coaching deal.
Then he could talk to Mike Babcock and then maybe get them. He probably won't make the announcement on the coach and hiring until after the Stanley Cup Finals because that's what the NHL most of the time will, try to do is tell the teams, hey, if you got an announcement to make, whether it's firing, signing, a trade, whatever. Wait until the end of the Stanley Cup Finals and then make an announcement to make it official.
I absolutely love what he's done, and because it's something that's all the long-term thinking. It's been progressive. It's again, people aren't going to agree. They go, if it's so progressive, why'd you offer a guy like McCormick a 3-year contract? Why'd you offer a guy like Gianta the amount of money he gets for being a role player? And the simple thing I'm going to tell you that is cap floor, and then I'm going to substitute that, and they go, well, Nick. Sabres were well above the cap floor. Yes, they were well above the cap floor after they obtained Evander Kane and Zach Bogosian.
Because those caps counted on the salary.
Absolutely. Now, that being said, You take away those players, you look at a team that's, and you look for the fact of the matter, when are you going to have to re-sign McEichel?
4 years.
3.
3 years.
Mm-hmm. At 3 years after.
When's Giannis's contract done?
He's got 2 more after this year.
That's 2 more after this year.
Right?
That's correct.
Giannis, yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Contract off the books. Hodgins around the same time or could be bought out. Molson's a guy around the same time or could be bought out by that point.
Or traded.
Reinhardt will be another guy you'll have to re-sign to.
3 years, yeah. Because I think does anybody firmly believe Reinhardt's going back to juniors next year?
No.
No. Well, no. He'll go to the AHL next year.
No.
No, I don't think. I think he's going to be on the team.
I heard some analysts say that he would go to the AHL next year.
Depending on what age he will be come the start of next year.
I'll look it up. He has to be 20, correct?
Yeah, he has to be 20
right now.
November 6th, he'll be 20.
No, he won't. He won't be
Okay,
eligible.
so
He'll have
that's
to
a
go back to the
mistake.
Western
That's a
Hockey
mistake on
League.
my part.
I don't see Ryan.
Come on, Joe.
He'll be here then.
You're better than that.
He'll be here.
Look, main point being with all of that is that Murray's masterminded this. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. You're looking at it right now. You got to feel good because 3 years from now, all the contracts that he really signed, they're not hurting the Sabres against the cap.
No, and the only one that I was questioning was McCormick. But then you realize, well, that's not a problem because he can come back and play fourth-line center next year, and you're still looking good. And then maybe you trade him the next year after
McCormick?
that. McCormick? You could put him at fourth-line center.
You could, but I think you've already got 5 centers that you want to make room for.
Well, then you put him on waivers and send him to Rochester.
That's what I would do.
That's not a bad
to
idea.
me, you've got... I think Larson, Gergensen, and whoever we draft will be centers here.
And you know what? And you know what? Cody McCormick, if you remember during the offseason, he said there's only one place I wanted to come back to in the offseason. That was Buffalo. If Tim Murray doesn't want him here, McCormick might retire. He might just retire.
Yeah.
Collect his money. It may count against the cap, but you know what? It's not going to be the full salary cap hit.
Well, because to me, if he goes to Rochester, I feel like he could be a guy that gets called up.
He would still count against the cap though, and then every time you'd have to send him back to waivers again.
I mean, next year they'll be trying to get to the floor, or they have a ton of cap room. So
We'll see. Yeah. Again, it's going to come to trades, and again, the Bogosian trade helps because Bogosian and Kane are both over $5 million against the cap. You're looking at it right now. Sabres, to all those people who are like Murray doesn't know what he's doing. If you look at this team, he's got this team starting with this year. I needed people to hit the cap, and I needed to be able in a position where I'm not hurting my team 3 years from now with contracts because that's what I can afford to do. And guess what he did? Did exactly that. If you're looking at it from a building perspective, until he signs a player like a Ville Leno type contract, I'm not going to come out and go he's an idiot because he's not. I call it like it is. We call it like it is here on Neutral Ice. I'm not going to sit back and go, hey, here's this GM and he's fielding all these players and he actually believes they're going to field it.
We have the Tim Murray type of mentality here on Neutral Ice.
Do you want to win 10th place trophy or do you want to win the Stanley Cup?
Wait, they gave you trophies for that?
No, they don't.
They give you trophies for last place.
Turns out
that's Connor McDavid.
It turns out it's not a house league soccer reward. The reality
for finishing last place. Yeah, McEichel this year. Next year, well, good luck.
Look, I'm gonna say final words. And I'll let other people say it, and then we'll sign off. If you really don't believe in this thing, I want you to go to First Niagara Center. I want you to go to all those bricks of when you saw all those first players in their first games, and I want you to go, and I want you to read all of the fans who bought bricks and put them in there, and I want you to read those bricks, and I want you to read Cup or Bust. I want you to read Sacrifice. What was that one, Derek?
No sacrifice, no victory.
That's a brick right in there. I want you to read because about half of those bricks are about cups or about sacrificing for victory.
I'm still waiting for the Yaroslav Halak brick to go.
Yeah,
out
we're
there.
waiting. We're waiting for that one. So,
Ryan Vin,
as well as Mark Pysyk.
Fun fact: Mark Pysyk's not on there, and Cody McCormick's on there twice.
Yeah, Cody McCormick is on there twice.
It's unreal.
But that being said,
Neutral Ice, where we find out things that matter.
That's right. But I want you to go to First Niagara Center. I want you to go look at those bricks right next to the entrance, and I want you to read those. And I want to ask you, what's your slogan for the Sabres? Is it about the cup, or is it about 10th place? Because I'll tell you what, unless Tim Murray is the reincarnation of Craig McTavish on this team,
oh please God, no,
it's going to be really hard for the Sabres to be put in a position where they're not making the playoffs consistently with a player like McEichel.
That slogan should be, if you ain't first, you're last.
It's a bold strategy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's true. And that's what I want Buffalo, our listeners, people out there to be thinking about. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Just trying to put the Band-Aids on? Buying off Alexei Yashin's contract still. Sorry. That's his first name, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. And it's been a long time and a long day. Or do you want to be competing for the cup? 4 years for the next 8 years. Do you want to be in that position? Do you want to feel good every year knowing that it's playoff hockey time and that late April the Sabres are playing hockey at the First Niagara Center?
Although I do love singing horribly about trying to finish last place.
I know you do.
Hey, that could be among the things that you miss.
Think about it, Buffalo, because we've all been at a crossroads and it's finally over, but really the fun is just about to begin.
And think about Gord Duff, those games he had to cover, and how much happier he's going to be.
Anybody got any final words?
I have my final thoughts here, and that is this. The hard part's over. Whether you were anti-tank or pro-tank, the hard part is over. It's finally done with. The ugly part is gone, and Tim Murray is aggressive enough, and he has enough pieces. This team will compete next year for a playoff spot, and it will be fun again.
I just have one thing to say. It's go time.
I think we're all excited with that.
The bad times are just beginning.
I'm ready.
That's going to about do it here on Neutral Ice.
If you need someone, we
here.
can console you. We're here. We've got that big couch in the back.
Yeah.
Devils could get McDavid still. That being said,
Unlikely.
That being said, Chris, any final thoughts about the tank being over?
Beyond happy it's over. I'm happy from the bottom of my heart. I'm happy for you guys. You'll be a very good hockey team in years to come, and that's a good thing for the NHL and a good thing for this city.
You know what? That's honestly the most sentiment I've heard you ever say about something like that, and I give kudos to Chris Kowalchuk for that. Not easy to do that. And you know what, Chris? I really hope the Devils turn it around because it's going to be super depressing next year on this show.
Oh my God,
That's not true.
So,
I'm going to be ready to kill myself.
Oh man!
Wait a minute.
Whoa! We have help. Listen, that got dark really quick.
Do you remember my sarcasm?
Yeah, I know.
So next year we're going to be playing this for the Devils.
Tank report.
Corey Schneider.
You're not beating the Leafs and Coyotes.
Corey Schneider.
No, but going into the season next year, I'm not ready to tank.
I know.
Just saying. And even halfway through the season, I'm still not rooting against the Devils.
Corey Schneider exists, so it just won't happen. So there you go. That being said, Brayton, any final thoughts?
I'm sick. I want to throw up.
I'm sure that's not true.
This Saturday, the draft lottery is at 8 p.m. You can go to any local bar, brew that's going to be on. Freaking Applebee's, man.
Yeah, some of us will be at Pearl Street. Others of us will be at 716.
I'll be in my mom's basement.
We could potentially be at Kenmore Ale House.
Amherst Ale House.
Amherst Ale House.
They've been like the most.
Who's going to Arizona for this?
If any of you guys are there and you see me in my Devils jersey, feel free to say hi. Don't hit me.
He'll be the lone guy cheering if they win.
There is. If you're interested as well, we're working on a documentary for this process as well. I want to throw this out there. If you're interested in talking about it on camera or even just via phone, call WBNY and say, I'm interested in helping out with a documentary or anything like that. We're trying to capture the spirit of Buffalo. We've already got some great footage. We were at Pearl Street last Friday for the Columbus game, and that was a lot of fun. We had some of the best interviewees I think I've ever had. Those guys were terrific. And we're having a lot of fun with this. The city is absolutely insane, but it just goes to show you how crazy of a hockey city Buffalo really is. It doesn't matter if they're finishing last. I'm not sure there's another city that would have gone this crazy the way Buffalo did. Maybe Toronto for hockey the way it happened, but it's been really entertaining. It's been a lot of fun. I could tell my grandchildren one day that I was a part of a moment in sports history.
Unprecedented,
no doubt. It's been real. 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. You've been listening to Neutral Ice. I'm Nick Lippa with Brayden Wolfson, Derek Kramer, Frank Akuri, Chris Kowalchuk, and Joe DiBiase. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next Monday with playoff reports and probably us not really crying too much because we'll probably be in a position to take Jack Eichel. Thanks for listening.
The quest for McEichel